The girl my childhood friend liked tearfully confided that her stepfather had molested her. He rallied a few boys from our compound and went to confront the man, armed with knives. I stopped this reckless plan. In the end, they used their family's influence to have the stepfather sent to prison, but the girl couldn't bear her mother's resentment and the pity from others, and she took her own life. My friend was despondent for a while, but eventually, he started attending classes with me again. The day before the bar exam, he glared at me with resentment. If you hadn't meddled and stopped us, how could she have died? I was drugged and locked up with a group of thugs, brutally bullied to death, reborn on the day my childhood friend took his buddies to save the damsel in distress. I didn't intervene, watching coldly as they bought knives once more and strode, full of bravado, down the dead end I had laid out for them. That old bastard isn't fit to live. I swear I'll cut him into 1,000 pieces. Yufeng gritted his teeth and slammed his fist onto the desk, making the classroom furniture groan in protest. How dare you mess with Lan? Do you even consider me? All my brothers, get in there. I want him to die a painful death. The brothers all looked at me as if seeking my opinion. I couldn't help but laugh. Why are you looking at me? I'm just Yufeng's childhood friend, not his girlfriend. You're all grown university students now. You should be able to decide for yourselves what's right and what's wrong. Handle your own affairs however you see fit. I won't interfere. Yufeng looked at me, somewhat stunned. Jiang Zhiqiao, you're really not going to get involved. You won't try to stop us. Is that it? Stop them? Why would I stop them? Am I supposed to rush headlong into getting myself torn to pieces again, like in my last life, in my previous life, in the same classroom, under the same circumstances? As soon as I finished listening to Yufeng's speech, I immediately stopped him. What is most needed right now is calm. Whether Lan's stepfather is guilty or not should be decided by the law. None of us are judges, but once someone is killed, Yufeng will inevitably be held accountable, and that is never the right choice. My impassioned reasoning left everyone speechless. Finally, with bloodshot eyes, he said, fine, I won't resort to violence this time. Immediately after, Yufeng leveraged his grandfather's influence to publicly disgrace his stepfather, branding him with infamy. But no one could have anticipated that on the very day his stepfather was sentenced, and Lan hanged herself. Before taking her own life, she left a letter describing the devastating impact the exposure had on her. Her mother's scolding and the judgmental eyes of the world made her feel she could no longer live with the shame. After reading the letter, Yufeng sat before her coffin for the entire night. I went to console him, as we had done all we could. In the darkness, Feng suddenly stood up and held me tight. Xiao, I've already lost Anlin. I don't want to lose you too. Let's walk the path ahead together. I silently shed tears, never expecting that the one who would succeed in the end would be my childhood friend. After that, he took even more meticulous care of me during my exams. But the day before the law exam, I was suddenly drugged and locked in a massive dog cage. Beside me were a group of hungry thugs. Yufeng. I desperately shook the bars, reaching my hand out to him, but as he turned, he pressed the burning cigarette butt into my palm. How does it feel? Pretty hopeless, isn't it? Jiang, you top student. Now, you can finally understand Lan's feelings. Don't worry, I won't bully you, you cold-blooded creature. I'm afraid you'd dirty my shoes. Let them keep you company. It wasn't until then that I realized he had always hated me for stopping him from killing. But does he really know the full story? Can one person really decide the life and death of another so casually? In a daze, my thoughts drifted back to the scene. Yufeng was animatedly laying out his plan. Dagong, you go find the most suitable shop to buy knives from. Make sure it's far away, with no surveillance cameras around. Xiaohai, you're in charge of getting hats and masks for everyone. Leave no trace of the purchase. When it came to murder, his mind became both excited and meticulous. When he finally finished speaking, I quietly pressed the stop button on the voice recorder. Jiang Zhiqiao, you go too. You're in charge of luring him. Yufeng turned his head, his eyes full of malice. What am I supposed to do? This is your business. Yufeng wasn't about to let me off. It's easier to get exposed with more people. You first trick him into a more secluded spot. With that, he leaned in a little closer, planting his hands on my desk. You're not going to let Lan's death go unavenged, are you? His lackeys all turned their expectant gazes toward me. Looking at Yufeng's face, I already knew exactly what game he was playing. My father is a prosecutor renowned throughout the city, and my grandfather is a well-known figure in the legal and political world. If this ever comes to light, as long as they drag me down with them, my family will surely pull strings to protect me. His thinking is just as worldly and cunning as his grandfather's. Our families were once close friends for generations. Our grandfathers were like brothers, classmates at the University of Political Science and Law. It said that back then, my grandfather's family was poor, and it was often Yu Feng's grandfather who stepped in to help him through many a lean and hungry year. After graduation, my grandfather joined the court, while his grandfather entered the political arena, beginning his career in public service. Initially, they were still close, but gradually, their differences grew more and more. Finally, when my grandfather saw his old classmate show up at home with gold bars, his anger could no longer be contained. You mean Zhong, is this your conscience? How dare you try to bribe me with such things? Lao Jiang, don't be so rigid. He waved his hand. This money, it could be seen as bribery, or it could be called compensation. If you insist on prosecuting Zhang's son, he will appeal again and again, until the plaintiff is bankrupt. Seeing my grandfather silent, he added, think about it. How many lawsuits can a widow with children afford? But with this compensation, they could live comfortably for many years. Sometimes the truth is the one that devours. Old classmate, be flexible. That was the first major argument among our ancestors. As my father told me, he was only 6 years old then. That time, Grandpa still insisted that Zhang Gongzi was guilty, and then regularly gave a sum of relief money to the widow of the victim. Grandpa said that no matter what the reason, the truth cannot be buried, but Grandpa Yufeng believed that the truth can be written. Obviously, Yufeng thought so too. Sorry, you're wrong. I'm not getting involved. I suppressed my disgust, put the pencil case with the voice recorder into my bag, and got up to leave. No matter what, I will never betray my family's teachings and circumvent the law, because once you start down that path, countless shady dealings can be carried out under the banner of justice. Even if Anlin's stepfather is truly as wicked as she says, it still wouldn't be right. Just as I reached the classroom door, Yufeng called out to me, Jiang Ziqiao, do you really think I don't know what's on your mind? 3. I know exactly what this is. You're just jealous of Anlin. You're eaten up with envy. Isn't this all because you're angry I don't have feelings for you? He walked up behind me, hands in his pockets, a mocking air about him, utterly confident in his own charm. His underlings also chimed in at the right moment, trying to embarrass me. I laughed in anger at him, but even more at my own self-righteousness. Back then, in his youth, Yu Feng's background was unknown, and he was often beaten up by the boys. Taking pity on him, I would often step in as the class monitor to mediate the fights. Over time, the rumor spread that I had a thing for Yufeng and couldn't bear to see him get hurt. To my surprise, Yufeng started believing it himself. Later, whenever he got beaten up, he'd tell people, Jiang Ziqiao is my wife, who dares lay a finger on me? He kept up that charade until his family background was exposed and he became the boss, after which he never mentioned it again. I gave a cold laugh and raised an eyebrow. Don't forget, I never once said I liked you, unlike someone who, to save his own skin, goes around telling everyone he's my husband. I wonder what he's so scared of. Years of getting his own way have spoiled him rotten. He's completely forgotten who was begging whom back in the day. Yu Feng's face instantly flushed with alternating shades of red and white. Just then, I suddenly received a message. I'm at Shui Alley, get here now. My expression changed, and I immediately stormed out of the classroom. After a few turns, I arrived at the entrance of Crooked Water Lane. I've walked this path since I was a child, and my grandfather always brought me here. By now, the sun was high in the sky, and more vendors were gathering here to sell their goods. A man in sunglasses was already waiting there. Spotting me, he hurried over and pointed towards one of the vendors. Sister Qiao, we found him, right over there. Following the direction he pointed, I saw a man in a military overcoat and a lei phone cap, silently sitting in front of a stall kneading dough figurines. The sight of him made my heart race involuntarily. I stared fixedly at the man before me. He noticed my gaze, and upon seeing me, his face lit up with a mix of shock and delight. Xiao Qiao, what are you doing out here all by yourself? It's freezing. He handed me a hot water bottle somewhat awkwardly, all the while bustling about and offering advice. Look at your hands, they're all red from the cold. Come here and warm them up. I've been so busy lately, I haven't had much time to visit. How is your grandfather doing? In my past life, it never once crossed my mind that Anlin's stepfather would turn out to be the uncle I'd known since I was a child. Just last month, he called his grandfather to say that his stepdaughter was preparing to act in a movie and he needed to raise money for her. The teacher said her acting skills need to be improved, so she can only be sent to a small class for further training, but he didn't know that his stepdaughter was already hanging out with a new second-generation group, having planned to push him into the abyss from start to finish. And Lon never told us the truth, not in the previous life, and not in this one either, for I recalled the report from the private detective in my previous life. He said that Anlan's stepfather was a craftsman in Sushui Lane, working dawn to dusk. To support the family under his careful guidance, Anlan successfully passed the art exam and became a student in the art department of the university next door. However, after reaching adulthood, Anlan began repeatedly inserting herself into the relationships of wealthy young heirs, aspiring to become a rich man's wife. Her stepfather and mother scolded her relentlessly for this. "We worked so hard to raise you. Was it so you could be someone's mistress? We wouldn't touch that dirty money even if you gave it to us." Anlan's stepfather even went so far as to contact the wealthy man's legal wife, single-handedly shattering Anlan's dream of being a kept woman. Little did he know, what awaited him was murder at the hands of his stepdaughter. "Brother Feng, my stepfather, he molested me. I really want to kill him." Back then, it was the first time Anlan had ever sought out her devoted admirer, Yu Feng. Tearfully begging for his help, Yu Feng agreed without a second thought. He was determined to play the hero in front of the beauty and would do anything she asked. Besides, in his eyes, getting away with murder was as easy as washing his hands. This fool doesn't realize that Anlan found him solely to do the dirty work. As for love, she wouldn't even look at him. She wants a higher level second generation, and Yufeng can't satisfy her at that moment. Anlan's stepfather's voice brought me back to reality. "The hot water bottle's gone cold. Here, use this one instead." He offered me another one. I waved my hands to decline, but he insisted. In the back and forth, I accidentally knocked his bag to the floor as I bent down to pick it up. A photograph slipped out just as I reached for it. It was a family portrait of him with Anlan and her daughter. In the photo, Anlan was beaming a sweet, radiant smile, her arms draped around the couple's shoulders. He saw me, feeling a bit embarrassed yet proud. "This is my daughter. Isn't she beautiful? You haven't met her before, have you?" "I have." "How could I not have in my previous life? She not only harmed you but also directly caused my death in her past life." Yufeng went to great lengths to fabricate evidence, proving that Anlan's stepfather had relationships with multiple women, all to ensure his imprisonment. Once the charges were confirmed, the once innocent father-daughter relationship became all too real. To make matters worse, she was then diagnosed with AIDS, not knowing who had passed it to her or who she might have infected. In turn, the dissolute young men who contracted the disease simply blamed her for it all. They said she caught it from her stepfather, and that she was the one who passed it on to them. Anlan had no way to defend herself. The only path left for her led to death. When I uncovered this news, Yufeng was still in the depths of anguish, often staring blankly at Anlan's photograph. I couldn't bear to shatter his illusion. What was the point of saying these things now that she was gone? But I never expected that Anlan had already meticulously planned my death before she died. In her eyes, it was I who stopped Yufeng from killing her stepfather, which forced her to turn the act into reality and drive herself to a dead end. When I was being bullied by the gang, Yufeng stood outside the cage, coldly saying, "It's you who killed Anlan. She told me in a letter that without your instigation, she wouldn't have died." That's when I realized, at the end of her suicide note, Anlan had ordered my death, just as she had ordered Yufeng to kill her stepfather. At this thought, I sighed and lowered my voice to the delighted man before me. "Uncle, have you seen Orphan 5?" After the evening class, Yufeng and his group left the classroom in a grand procession. I followed from a distance, watching them get into the car and drive all the way to the entrance of Tsushui Lane. And Lan's stepfather was about to pack up his stall when he turned around and was blocked by a tall underling. It was already late at night, and there were no surveillance cameras near Tsushui Lane. Just as the stepfather was about to turn around, he found another group blocking his way. "You're Lan's stepfather." Yufeng forced a smile, his hands behind his back. What do you want?" The stepfather was on guard, quietly reaching for his pocket. Little did he know, Yufeng caught his little move instantly. Yufeng grabbed him from behind, the stepfather still clutching the phone. Yufeng pushed him against the wall and slammed his elbow against it several times, causing the phone to drop. "Oh. You know how to record, not bad," he sneered, immediately deleting the recording and stomping on the phone. My heart leaped into my throat. The recording is crucial evidence. If this link in the chain is missing, we'll be at a significant disadvantage. But I didn't have time to lament. Yufeng and the others swarmed him, kicking and punching, the knives in their hands glinting menacingly just as the first man raised his knife. The bystanders I had planted began to emerge. Yufeng cursed under his breath and quickly led his men away from the scene. After watching my stepfather being loaded into the ambulance, I hurried home under the cover of darkness. Before I even stepped inside, I heard a commotion. Yufeng's grandfather was sitting on the sofa, trembling with rage. "Jiang Shanhua, say it again, will you save him or not?" My grandfather turned his back on him and spat out 2 icy words, "I won't, don't you forget." "Old man," you sputtered, coughing with rage, "if it weren't for me back then, you'd have starved to death. And now that my grandson is in trouble, you're going to be this heartless." My grandfather still had his back to him. "Your grandson brought this on himself. He broke the law, and he must face the consequences. The most I can do is ask the guards to keep an eye out, so he doesn't get beaten senseless." Old master, you grew even angrier at these words. He tried to speak again, but my grandfather cut him off with a wave of his hand. "We have nothing more to discuss. Ah Xing, see our guest out." My mother stood up upon hearing this and silently escorted Grandpa Yufeng out the door. "Fine, fine," he said, trembling as he leaned on his cane. "If you won't save him, I have ways to save my grandson." As I passed by him, I felt a surge of anger directed at me. Grandpa Yufeng glared at me with resentment, as if blaming me for not stopping his grandson from getting into trouble. Stop him. In my previous life, when I was locked in a dog cage, he didn't stop his precious grandson either. Back then, I was locked in the basement of Yufeng's house. The old man only came down to take a quick look before hurrying away. I cried out to him for help in the darkness, begging him to discipline his grandson. But the old man turned his back to me and left with a lukewarm remark, "That's just his nature. I can't control him." "If you can't even control him, what am I supposed to do? Wait to get thrown back in the cage?" That evening, I felt a bit lightheaded and sluggish. Anlin's stepfather still hadn't regained consciousness. The police had cordoned off the scene and begun collecting evidence. I opened my phone and searched for related news, but found nothing at all about Yufeng. Looks like the Yu family really went all out, even managing to completely muzzle the media. It wasn't until the 3rd day that I finally saw a news report: artisan assaulted, suspect apprehended, motive suspected to be drunken impulse. I clicked in to see a few thug-looking individuals with their heads bowed. Not a single one was from Yufeng's crew. "Old man, you've indeed found a scapegoat." "I know. The battle between good and evil has just begun." 6. And Lan's stepfather hasn't woken up yet. And Lan and her mother stood by the bed, tears in their eyes. But as soon as she turned her head, and Lan bitterly cursed, "What a useless, good-for-nothing." She wanted to eliminate the problem for good. But to her surprise, Yufeng just made a move and left. Yufeng was completely unaware of this. He was still bragging to me secretly during the break. "See that? Killing a man would be easier for me than squashing an ant." I pretended not to hear, yet my finger kept pressing the record button, over and over. A week later, when Anlin's stepfather finally regained consciousness, his first act was to call for the police. It was Yufeng. "Yufeng and his men attacked me. He said he was going to kill me." The angrier he got, the more everyone just looked at each other in silence. The thug had already confessed: the matching knife with blood and fingerprints, the blood-stained clothes, the bloody shoes, everything fit together perfectly. He tried to speak again, but the doctor stopped him. "Sir, even if what you say is true, who are the Yu family? How could we possibly stand against them?" But he wouldn't listen. Not only did he refuse to listen, but he also posted the whole thing online. Public opinion can't be used to judge a case, but it can be used to seek justice. When he appeared on a video platform, covered in bruises and holding up his ID card, the internet erupted. "Yufeng is a scion of the Yu family. How could he possibly do something like this?" The comment section was buzzing with discussion, with some well-meaning users urging him to take the video down quickly and beware of retaliation from the Yu family. That family is notoriously vindictive. They'd kill without batting an eye. You really need to be careful. But as the video spread far and wide, more and more of Yufeng's dirty laundry began to be aired. Some say Yufeng bullied him just because the girl Yufeng liked had a crush on him. Some say Yufeng forced himself to eat sand and then made his underling take the blame. Yufeng watched all this unfold, unconcerned. "Speak. Go ahead and speak. Let's see who can do anything about it." He said this to the guys during our class meeting. I was listening nearby, quietly chuckling to myself. As soon as class ended, I headed straight for another bar. Out of the 10 bars in the city, I'd already been to 8. Whether I could turn this case around all hinged on the next 2. The bartender saw me and assumed I was there for a drink, but I got straight to the point. "Excuse me, I need to review the footage from your store on the evening of November 20th. Previously, by questioning those around the troublemakers, I had already tracked their movements. I learned that the leader came back reeking of alcohol and claimed he had been to a bar. Thus, I reviewed the surveillance footage of all the bars, aiming to provide him with an alibi and force the police to look for new suspects. During my investigation, Emlin's stepfather kept sending videos nonstop, and through word of mouth, suspicion against Yufeng grew stronger and stronger. Many people provided him with information, claiming they had seen Yufeng near the crime scene or had heard him threaten to kill someone. However, all of this still lacked the support of physical evidence. Right at that moment, while reviewing the surveillance footage, I suddenly called for a stop, zoom in further. I intently watched the few people at the front desk. When the footage was zoomed in, one of them, facing directly towards the camera, was clearly visible. This is the suspect accused of delivering the fatal blow. The time now is exactly 10 p.m., matching the time of the incident, yet this bar was still a full 5 kilometers away from Chushui Alley. The investigation was forced to start over. 7. Yufeng was taken in for questioning as the prime suspect. Even so, the situation remained grim. There is no physical evidence pointing to Yufeng at all. Human testimony alone is far from sufficient. Meanwhile, the Yu family has also launched an offensive, and an article calling for procedural justice has begun to spread widely. The article argues that prematurely defining Yufeng online is a pernicious trend of trial by public opinion. Moreover, it was pitch dark that night, so it's questionable whether Enlan's stepfather even saw his face. Clearly, given the delicate relationship between Enlan and Yufeng, it's possible that her stepfather, unwilling to see his stepdaughter in love, might have deliberately slandered Yufeng. The underlying message is that Yufeng had no motive to harm anyone. It was only then that Enlan's stepfather dropped his second bombshell. The day after the article was published, a new video emerged. In it, the stepfather appeared with injuries, and the title was refuting Yufeng's lack of motive. This video is unprecedentedly explicit, revealing all the recordings of Enlan inciting Yufeng to murder and Yufeng plotting a murder with his shady friends. At the beginning of the video, chat logs between Enlan and her stepfather are also included. "If you dare to ruin my feelings again, I'll have someone kill you." Enlan viciously sent a voice message in the logs following that. The conversation where Enlan seeks help from Yufeng and Yufeng's instructions are revealed. At the end of the video, Enlan vents her frustration from the hospital room. "You're utterly useless and only make things worse." Once the video was released, the internet erupted in an uproar, and Enlan and Yufeng faced an unprecedented wave of scathing criticism. As the situation took a sudden turn, Enlan was the first one who couldn't sit still. She went crazy, shouting and screaming outside the ward, demanding to know why her stepfather was doing this to her. She also said it was just a passing remark. Just a passing remark. I couldn't help but laugh, whether it was genuine hope or just empty words. Enlan knew best. Shortly after, Enlan was taken away. I don't know if her incitement to murder will hold up, but for me, getting revenge on Enlan ends here. I personally delivered a series of crystal clear recordings. With these recordings, Enlan's dream of entering the circle of the wealthy was completely shattered. For her, this was more devastating than being in prison. But Yufeng wasn't done yet. Even as he was taken in for questioning, he clung to a single line of defense. "I was just talking. I didn't do it. You can't arrest me like this." He was brimming with confidence, knowing that the few surveillance cameras that could have placed him at the crime scene had been bought off at a high price by his family with no physical evidence. He was untouchable. "But I have already started looking for any clues about him. No action leaves no trace. This is what my father taught me. I am determined to find evidence that can incriminate him, not for any other reason, but for my belief. If I just wanted revenge, I have countless ways to kill him without a trace, but I can't. I'm the granddaughter of a chief justice, the daughter of a prosecutor. I can't bring shame to a family that holds the law above all else. With my faith as my guide, I will methodically silence his deceitful tongue and make him taste the bitter price of his crimes." 8. I found myself back on Crooked Water Lane. By then, the crime scene had been reopened. People were coming and going as if nothing had ever happened. I walked along the path Yufeng had taken in his escape, all the while thinking about their getaway route. There were 7 of them in total. For 7 people to dispose of knives would be extremely difficult, given how meticulous his thinking was. Options like throwing them in the moat or a trash bin were highly unlikely. What's more likely is that he took all the knives home and asked his grandfather to handle them. On the day of the incident, I walked home, but as soon as I arrived, his grandfather was already at my house, and he had already explained the reason to be able to move so quickly. It's most likely that he took public transportation home. I remembered Yufeng's private car under my report. The Yu family's car underwent a thorough inspection, and eventually, a very insignificant bloodstain was found on the carpet. Tests confirmed it was from Enlan's stepfather. There was an unexpected bonus from this trip. The Yu family, fearing evidence might leak, had actually cleaned the 7 knives and kept them hidden at home. Tests confirmed that these knives matched the characteristics of the weapon used to stab Enlan's stepfather. However, the Yu family still refused to admit it. According to their lawyer, Yufeng was guilty of attempted assault. They were merely passing by. After witnessing the assault scene, they fled back to their car with blood on them, but they didn't lay a hand on anyone. As for who actually did it, or which mastermind that drunken thug was taking the fall for, that's a matter for the police. He wants no part of it. Things have reached a point where it seems all the evidence I prepared in advance is now useless. Even I began to waver. Was it really impossible to seek revenge without resorting to vigilantism after all the trouble I went through to be reborn? I gazed out the window at the sky, lost in confusion. At that moment, a beautifully crafted dough figurine was presented to me. Turning around, I saw it was Anlin's stepfather. Upon seeing me, he smiled. Look, this is the Sun Wukong you loved as a child. Let me make another one for you. I took it, feeling even heavier at heart. Sun Wukong is the embodiment of justice in my heart, yet I cannot live up to that. My uncle seemed to have read my mind. Xiao Qiao, your grandfather used to say that if you do something bad, you'll always leave a trace. That's how he helped our family deal with that scoundrel back then. Back then, everyone said, how can you possibly convict someone so powerful? But in the end, he was convicted. I never expected we'd need your help now, but I believe in you. You can do it. After saying that, he felt a bit guilty for not being able to protect the phone recording. Right, the phone. How could I have forgotten about the phone then? My thoughts drifted back to what Yufeng had said on the day he assigned the task. Xiao Hai, you're responsible for getting everyone hats and masks. Make sure there's not a single trace left from the purchase. Interesting, a glimmer of hope. During the first trial, Yufeng and his lawyer stubbornly insisted that he had never gotten close to the victim, but when the forensic experts took the stand, he was stunned. The fibers extracted from Anlin's stepfather's wound were identical to the material of the hat seized from Yufeng's home. The material of these woolen hats is not available domestically. Their source is overseas. This was thanks to Yufeng's vigilance. Since Xiao Hai was very obedient, to avoid leaving any traces, he deliberately avoided online shopping platforms and asked a friend abroad to make some hats. What's more, the old hat maker had only produced these few hats over the past decade, as he never intended to sell them in the first place. This effectively narrowed the suspect pool down to Yufeng and his group of 7. Yufeng had schemed meticulously, using the hat to conceal his identity, only for it to become the crucial piece of evidence against him. Furthermore, fibers from a glove were recovered from Anlin's stepfather's shattered phone. The police traced the seller of that specific glove model and, once again, surveillance footage of the purchaser revealed Yufeng. The remaining 6 accomplices, exhausted, all confessed and provided more details with both witness testimony and physical evidence. Yufeng's intentional injury charge was finally confirmed. 9. After the first trial, Yufeng's family still refused to give up and appeared at my home again. This time, not only did Yufeng's grandfather come, but even his father showed up. Actually, Yufeng's sentence isn't long, but for the prestigious Yu family, once it's confirmed that there's a criminal in the family, their reputation is completely ruined. Yufeng's grandfather trembled as he grasped my grandfather's hand. Lao Jiang, I know you're incorruptible, but please help us just this once. Consider it a thank you for saving me back then, can you? I have cancer. Look at me. Don't let me die in disgrace. After all, we were classmates. Just help us this one time. Tears streamed down his face, and my grandfather's eyes also welled up, but he remained resolute. Lao Yu, I am also grateful for your life-saving help back then. If it were any other way, I could compensate, I could help. Even now, I would empty my home to cure your illness, but to protect Fenger, that is impossible. I cannot, and I have no right to do so. If I did, it would be me dying in humiliation, along with our teacher, my son, my granddaughter. Everyone would be too ashamed to face anyone. A pang of sadness washed over me as old man Yufeng disappeared into the sunset, leaning on his cane. This was likely the last time these 2 old classmates would ever meet. Who wouldn't wish for a peaceful end? To be met with such an unfilial son in one's twilight years, it's enough to make anyone die with regrets. But he brought this upon himself. Back in the day, he stood before Yufeng's father and ordered my grandfather to let young Master Zhang off the hook, and now, Yufeng's father has, time and again, demonstrated the power of influence right before his son's eyes, teaching by both word and deed from a young age. Yufeng understood that with power, you could control a person. With influence, you could escape punishment. His family had always believed this. When we entered the University of Political Science and Law, the teacher asked us why we were there. I said it was to become a prosecutor, but Yufeng just smiled and said, I'm here to become an official. With a prestigious university diploma in hand, his political career is bound to be promising. Just as I was lost in thought, another voice suddenly emerged online. This time, it was Yufeng writing to a journalist, claiming he wanted to expose something. You all thought there were only 7 of us, but there were actually 8. Jiang Zhiqiao knew about it from the very beginning and was involved. She just didn't go to the scene in the end. This is the Yu family's last-ditch effort. Even Grandpa Yu's plea didn't work, so they had to use me as a hostage. I gave a cold smile. I had anticipated this move when Yufeng first tried to take me to the scene. 10. I was also called to testify in Yufeng's second trial, although I was a witness. At that moment, my role felt like that of a criminal being interrogated. Yu's lawyer was relentless with me, trying to establish my role as an accomplice then, to prove that the evidence I provided could be fabricated or planted. Even if that doesn't work, it could force my grandfather to step in and save the day. Facing his question, I smiled faintly. I admit, I was aware of this plan from start to finish, but I am not an accomplice, nor an accessory, and I certainly didn't assist in any way. Facing the nationwide live broadcast, I calmly and clearly laid out the entire timeline. When Anlin approached Yufeng for help right in front of us, I started my first recording, ready to provide evidence at any moment. Later, when Yufeng formally notified me and the crew about the assassination plan, I recorded it again and refused to participate on the spot. This point can also be corroborated by my voice recorder. As for Attorney Yufeng's question about why I didn't intervene since I was also present, I have my own response to that. For an unarmed young woman, faced with 7 gleaming knives and 7 furious men, my first instinct certainly couldn't have been to charge forward. My only option was to call the police. Oh really? He sneered. If you truly wanted to save someone, you should have called the police much earlier, shouldn't you? Why did you let things escalate before finally making the call? Even without calling the police, you could have at least tried to stop him, couldn't you? Why didn't you intervene at all during the entire incident? This problem is ridiculously simple. Even at the beginning, Yufeng insisted that he was just joking and hadn't taken any real action. If I report it before anything happens, who would believe me, and who could stop it? All I can do is hire a detective to find Anlan's stepfather, remind him to prepare in advance, and arrange for someone to protect him at all times. All of this is supported by ample evidence. This is the best I can do. As for why I didn't stop him, I certainly can't say it's because I died once trying to stop him, I said calmly. I've known Yufeng since we were kids. I know his personality well. As a child, he could slap his nanny in the face twice for stopping him from skipping school. In middle school, his mother once tried to stop him from playing games, and he punched her in the jaw. You can easily verify this. If he could do that to someone so close to him, what would he do to me, a mere outsider? I dared not imagine what he would do if I tried to stop him from saving the woman he loved. My counterattack was clear and forceful, and it ultimately earned the trust of everyone without a doubt. The trial is over. The second instance verdict was announced, maintaining the original judgment, and Yufeng was found guilty. Shortly after the verdict, Yufeng's grandfather passed away. Yufeng, imprisoned, was unable to attend his funeral, but I think his grandfather wouldn't have wanted to see him either. 11. It's worth noting that during the second trial, Yufeng and the witness, Anlan, ended up trading insults. Yufeng called her a troublemaker, after he realized he was just being used, not even a backup option. Anlan shot back with equal venom, calling him a useless simp and a deadweight, saying she'd seen right through him all along. She was not sentenced because she only expressed her desire to kill someone, but never explicitly asked Yufeng to do it, which does not constitute incitement. However, her dream of marrying into a wealthy family has been shattered, not just because of the stain of suspicion of incitement. She also gained a reputation for slandering others at the slightest disagreement, and her bad name spread far and wide, leaving no gentleman willing to associate with her. Her family life is also in disarray. Not only her stepfather, but even her mother has cut off contact with her. Her mother cursed her for being heartless, just like her biological father, and vowed not to leave her a single cent of her inheritance. Her career was also severely damaged. No director dared to take the risk of hiring such an actress, and her dream of stardom was stillborn. Under multiple blows, Anlan could barely hold on and vented all her anger on Yufeng. I was just saying, who told you to act? How pathetic. Their argument only lasted until the verdict was announced. After the second trial, Anlan was diagnosed with AIDS and urgently needed money for treatment. She thought again about Yufeng, who was still in prison. Yufeng had also fallen from grace by now, and no girl would look at him. Over time, they rekindled their relationship through letters. Fortunately, Grandpa Yufeng had passed away earlier, otherwise he would have suffered another blow before his death. But this doesn't concern me much anymore. My revenge is almost complete. My father went to the capital to take up his post. Before leaving, he praised me. Girl, I knew you could do it. Study hard. You're the hope of our family. At this point, I'm already preparing for the law exam. This journey isn't accompanied by Yufeng as it was in my previous life. Instead, I feel my learning Efficiency has improved. 12 I saw you phone again in prison. His face was haggard, and the once arrogant expression had long since vanished. In prison, he suddenly asked me, Jiang Jiqiao, did you actually also reincarnate? I was a bit surprised. I had thought I was the only one who had reincarnated. Yu Feng burst into laughter. Unbelievable. I still couldn't escape your grasp. In my past life, I killed you in that dog cage, then pretended to be a witness coming to your rescue, but your father uncovered the truth, had me thrown in prison, and arranged for the other inmates to beat me to death. You Jiangs, you're truly ruthless. I cut him off. My father might uncover the truth, but he would never order someone to beat you to death. This is our family's bottom line. I trust him. Immediately after, in his incredulous gaze, I coldly said, our family doesn't have the habit of dealing with things through private punishment. The truth is, after being reborn for revenge, I had 10,000 ways to make sure you paid. I could have locked you in a cage and let the dogs finish you, but I chose this path, the most difficult one with the slimmest chance of success, to take you to court, because I wanted you to know this. Using the law, I can make you pay just the same. No one can escape punishment, and that includes you. Through the glass window, Yu Feng's expression became very complicated. I don't know what he's thinking. Maybe he still thinks I'm naive. 13 Not long after, I successfully passed the bar exam. Later, I became a prosecutor I had long aspired to be. At the celebration banquet, and Lan's stepfather warmly congratulated me and presented me with a small dough figurine. After Yu Feng's case, the interaction between our two families became even closer than before. I looked at the Sun Wukong in my hand, so vivid. Exactly the same as the one he gave me when I first met him. Ever since I was little, every time I felt down, he would give me all sorts of little dough figurines to encourage me to keep going. Before I knew it, Uncle and I have known each other for over 20 years. After Yu Feng went to prison, his father came to my house once. Briefly, he couldn't understand why Anlin's stepfather trusted me so much and cooperated with me in all sorts of ways. I chuckled quietly to myself upon hearing that. That's all thanks to you. When his uncle was only 6 years old, his father was killed by Zhang the young master. At the time, Judge Jiang Shanhua insisted on convicting, but Secretary Yu Minzhong came to stop him. He said, don't convict, it's better for everyone, and it's better for the widow and her child. Judge Jiang didn't buy it. He single-handedly supported the mother and son through their toughest times, and even sent the little boy to learn the art of dough modeling, which he loved, making him a master of an intangible cultural heritage craft. Later, he got married, started a career, divorced, moved, and remarried. It was only then that we briefly lost touch, but our bond remained strong. That's why he trusted me so much, to uncover the truth and send people where they belonged, just like a grandfather would. However, such sentiments are lost on the Yu family. They believe only in one thing. There are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. Be that as it may, my journey is about to begin. By following in my forebears' footsteps, I have finally realized my dream. Story 2. I was hit by a car on my way to a prenatal checkup, and when I woke up, my unborn baby was gone. Devastated and drowning in grief, I later discovered the crash was orchestrated by my own husband. He had tampered with the brakes to harvest our baby's cord blood, all to save his ex-wife's son who had leukemia. Their child made a full recovery and thrived, while their perfect family lived happily ever after. My child left this world without even seeing their mother, while I was left disabled from the accident, completely dependent on others for daily survival. When I confronted them, the two humiliated, cursed, and beat me to death. When I opened my eyes again, I'd been reborn back on the day of my prenatal checkup. This time, I gently touched my unborn child and made a silent vow. Since fate has let us live, then let them die. Wan, I've got something to handle today. You'll be fine going to your prenatal checkup alone, right? As I opened my eyes, my husband Gu Xinghe was gazing at me with concern. I found myself curled up on the couch, enveloped by the soothing notes of a piano piece. The slight flutter of fetal movement stirred in my heavy belly, while my paralyzed legs, completely numb, kept an involuntary rhythmic tapping. But didn't I already? My eyes caught the calendar on the wall in a fleeting glance. I'd been reborn, right back to the day of my prenatal checkup. This day shall mark the descent of my soul into eternal night. What's wrong? Is the baby kicking again? Seeing me clutch my stomach, Gu Xinghe drew me close and murmured in my ear, no, I'll be fine going alone. I'll just go tidy up the room first. Memories of my past life flooded back, filling me with such revulsion that I instinctively pushed him away. When returning to the bedroom, I discreetly brought along the bag he always carried when he wasn't looking. After packing my clothes, Gu Xinghe's impatient voice faintly drifted in from the living room. Will you stop nagging? If you're anxious, I'm 10 times worse. The whole West River City is under my control, where could she possibly run? Don't worry about it. In his previous explanation, he claimed it was just a debtor who ran away, but now I see things clearly. The person on the other end of the line was his ex-wife, Su Xiaomei. Their 8-year-old son has leukemia and wants to use my unborn baby's cord blood as a lifeline. Knowing I still had 2 months until my due date and wouldn't agree to an early C-section, they started scheming against me. It clicked instantly when I stepped out. Gu Xinghe hastily stuffed his phone into his pocket and lit a cigarette. Spotting the luggage in my hands, he frowned. Honey, why are you bringing that to your prenatal checkup? Why, to protect myself from you, you devil. But I still explained patiently, the due date's just 2 months away now. I thought I'd visit my mom after the prenatal checkup. It'll only get harder to travel later on. Gu Xinghe seemed hesitant. He stood by the window, gazing at the distant parking lot, then exhaled a thick cloud of smoke. All right then, I'll drive. Gu Xinghe insisted on seeing me off to the car. After loading the luggage into the trunk and making sure I was seated, he was giving driver Xiao Lu some instructions when his phone rang. It must have been Su Xiaomei calling again. He hurried off in a rush. Madam, please fasten your seatbelt. Master Lu reminded me with a smile. I scoffed. Like seatbelts make us invincible. What? You want our corpses, including the baby in my belly, to look presentable? Master Lu froze, clearly unprepared for such brutal honesty. He lowered his head, visibly flustered. Madam, I know you don't mean what you say. I cut him off. How much is Silver River paying you to harm me? I'll double it. What money are you talking about? Ma'am, to be honest with you, my wife's cancer surgery is coming up soon and I'm in a hurry to get home, though I don't understand why Mr. Gu specifically told me to drive faster. I believe nothing's more important than getting you and the young master home safely. Master Lu came from the countryside, an honest, decent man. He was wringing his hands, and didn't seem to be lying. Memories of my past life involuntarily flooded my mind. The car lost control during the turn. Master Lu desperately pulled the handbrake, causing a rollover and rear-end collision. He died instantly, while I was left disabled. During the inspection, they found the braking system had malfunctioned. Something feels off. This car was just serviced a few days ago. After some digging, I found out Gu Xinghe had tampered with it. While auditing the accounts, I discovered Gu Xing gave Master Lu's wife a substantial condolence payment. That's why I've always believed Master Lu intended his death to secure medical funds for his wife. Only now do I understand he was fooled by Gu Xinghe too. Gu Xinghe really went all out to keep his own hands clean. He didn't hesitate to stage a car accident at the expense of innocent people. With that thought, I slipped the bank card into Master Lu's pocket. There's $500,000 in here. No need to see me off. Go home to your wife. She needs you right now. Just keep this between us. That's all I ask. Master Lu flat out refused to take it. I shoved the bank card into his pocket and practically pushed him out of the car. He knocked on the car window, eyes glistening with tears. Madam, you're a good soul. You and your child will always be safe. That's a promise. I hurried down the road with my luggage, hearing rustling footsteps behind me. Those are Gu Xinghe's bodyguards. Seems like he's monitoring my every move. They're definitely making their move today. No matter what, the Gu family's influence is too powerful. Running would be pointless. As long as evil lives, peace shall never come. I caressed my belly, soothing the unborn child I'd never met yet cherished with all my heart. In my past life, I failed to protect you and myself, letting those monsters have their way. But rest assured, in this life, I'll make them pay with their blood. I hailed a cab and deliberately raised my voice. Driver, Provincial Maternal and Child Health Hospital. In the private consultation room, Dr. Sun's expression turned grave after reviewing the 4D ultrasound. Miss Fu, please have a seat and rest here. I'll be back shortly. He handed me a glass of water thoughtfully as he spoke. I took a small sip. After he left, I spat the water back into the glass. I frantically rinsed my mouth with mineral water, then poured it all on the balcony plants. Last life I was betrayed by those closest to me. This time I trust no one. I sent the secretly recorded 4D ultrasound to my sister. She's also an outstanding obstetrician. Sis, the baby's perfectly fine. What's wrong? Just as I thought. Dr. Sun was bribed. I'll explain when we get back. I calmly took out my earphones from the bag. That morning, I deliberately sewed the listening device into the lining of Gu Xinghe's frequently used bag. The bug picked up Su Xiaomei's tearful voice. When will the surgery be? Nan can't wait much longer. Dr. Sun hemmed and hawed. Mr. Gu, I saw Miss Fu drink the medicated water, but the fetus is perfectly healthy. If we perform a C-section 2 months early, The baby likely won't survive. Gu Xinghe seemed hesitant. Xiaomei, can't we consider other options? Other options? If there were any, would I be begging you like this? Su Xiaomei's voice was urgent. Even if she lost this baby, couldn't she just have another one? But I can't have children anymore. Nan is my whole life. If anything happens to him, I won't live either. Her words made my blood boil with rage. She can't have children, so she's going to take my child's life. I don't understand why you're hesitating. Are you feeling sorry for her now? Su Xiaomei was sobbing, gasping for air. Gu Xinghe's voice was icy. Of course not. I'm just concerned that forcing the issue might escalate things and tarnish our Gu family's reputation. But I can't worry about that now. Dr. Son, prep for surgery. After hearing their conversation, I immediately called the police. Shortly after hanging up, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hallway. I feigned unconsciousness and lay on the hospital bed. The door opened. Gu Xinghe, worried I might wake, suggested Dr. Son, give me another injection. My eyes snapped open, startling Dr. Son as he held the syringe. How did you? He glanced at the empty cup on the table, baffled. Losing my temper won't do me any good. Buying time is the smartest move. I dozed off. Waiting. How's the baby doing? Spotting Gu Xinghe behind him, I feigned shock. Oh honey, what brings you here? I thought you were busy. This is someone who's truly been through the big leagues. Gu Xinghe remained perfectly composed, not a flicker of emotion crossing his face. He sat down beside me, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder with visible sorrow. Dr. Son said the baby's condition isn't looking good, so I came straight here. Dr. Son quickly seized the moment to interject. Exactly. Miss Fu, I called Mr. Gu earlier because I was concerned you might not be able to handle this. The child has congenital heart disease. We strongly recommend termination in this case. 1. I also found this news very difficult to accept at first, but I'm sure you, like me, wouldn't want our baby to suffer, right? Just thinking about him living on medication, unable to exercise vigorously, even running being dangerous, it's too cruel. We can't be that selfish. If I hadn't been given a second chance at life, I might have been fooled by his strong arms and perfect acting, but now, I see through his hypocrisy and it just makes me sick. Honey, isn't heart disease treatable? With the Gu family's wealth and resources, getting our child a heart transplant shouldn't be difficult, right? You know he's been inside me for 8 months. At first I had morning sickness and couldn't keep food down. Then I spent sleepless night after sleepless night. I've endured so much, but I persevered through it all. We listened to his heartbeat together, picked out his name, and joyfully anticipated his arrival. How can you really bring yourself to give up on him now? I practically spat out those last 3 words through clenched teeth. Gu Xinghe's face turned ashen and grim. Of course I can't bear to. But, no buts. Are the test results accurate? Could it just be the baby hasn't developed enough for this stage? Can't we wait and monitor the situation? Gu Xinghe kept a straight face, still negotiating with me. I kept reasoning with him patiently. Just then, the door burst open unexpectedly. Su Xiaomei charged in, wielding a gleaming silver fruit knife. Gu Xinghe, why are you still wasting words with her? If she won't consent to the C-section, I'll just help her along. With that, she came charging at me. Gu Xinghe swiftly intercepted her. Su Xiaomei struggled in vain before collapsing to her knees, pressing the knife's point against her own throat. Gu Xinghe, must Nan and I die before your eyes for you to make up your mind? She wept with such heartbreaking sorrow that it moved all who saw her. Deeply affected, Gu Xinghe helped Su Xiaomei to her feet. In his eyes, Su Xiaomei was a devoted mother, but I knew she was selfish and cruel to the core. After they murdered my child, I confronted them when the truth came out. She slapped me hard and sneered. My son is the Gu family's firstborn heir. That bastard of yours was just a vessel to prolong his life. Fearing I'd cause trouble, she and Gu Xinghe pushed me down the stairs to my death, but judging by Gu Xinghe's current demeanor, he won't let her act recklessly. I withdrew my hand from the bag where I'd been reaching for a switchblade, pretending to be frightened as I hid behind Gu Xinghe. Honey, what's she talking about? Gu Xinghe noticed faint streaks of blood on Su Xiaomei's neck. Flustered, he grabbed my wrist with a sudden twist. Be reasonable, Wan, we really can't keep this child. We'll have others. No, I won't allow it. I sank my teeth into his hand with all my might. Gu Xinghe tensed up in pain but held firm, shooting Dr. Son a meaningful glance. Quit standing there, hurry. Seeing this, Su Xiaomei rose to lend a hand. Several people pinned me down with brute force just as the sedative needle was about to pierce my skin. The police arrived, barefoot. I rushed to them, pointing at the people inside the room with tearful accusations. They tried to murder me. and my unborn child. Inside the police station, the forensic officer handed me the test results. MS, Foo, the residue in the cup wasn't a date rape drug. It was a sedative. Dr. Son claimed that water wasn't meant for you, but we can't verify that. I pointed at Gu Xinghe. But he forced me to have a C-section. Gu Xinghe pointed at my belly and laughed. That's my flesh and blood too. How could I possibly force you into a C-section? I gestured toward Dr. Son. They were in cahoots, claiming my baby had congenital heart disease and recommending an abortion, but I've consulted professionals, and my child is perfectly healthy. Dr. Son pondered for a moment. MS, Foo, if you doubt my diagnosis, we can certainly redo the examination. There's no need to involve the police. I then turned and pointed at Su Xiaomei. What about her? She barged into the ward with a knife trying to kill me. Su Xiaomei was utterly aggrieved. Fu Ruanruan, how dare you slander me like this? I was just desperate to save my son and wanted to ask Gu Xinghe, his biological father, for help. She pointed at her own neck, and that knife was clearly pointed at me. Alright, the three gave identical statements, corroborating each other's accounts as if I were some paranoid schizophrenic seeing threats everywhere. After leaving the police station, they all got in their cars and drove off. Gu Xinghe said with a dark expression, Ruan, since you already know everything, why keep pretending? Aren't you the one who's pretending? He furrowed his brows and lowered his voice. Ruan, I was wrong to lie to you, but Nan really needs the cord blood. Could you please stop being stubborn? It's just one unborn child. If you want, we can have 10 more. Like hell I want to. How goddamn heartless can you be? Every life matters, born or unborn. Nan at least got to see the world for 8 years, but the baby in my womb was killed before even laying eyes on its own mother. I locked eyes with Gu Xinghe. And what if I refuse? His gaze was fathomless as a dark pool, his voice cutting like winter frost. When Gu Xinghe wants something, he gets it. You don't have a choice. Fu Ruanruan, don't make me resort to force. Since we've come this far, then don't blame me for what happens next. I instantly beamed and looped my arm through his. Xinghe, you know I love you dearly and would do anything for you. Why didn't you just say so instead of beating around the bush? You're right, it's not like we can't have another child. I'll agree to give Nan the cord blood. But you have to promise me one thing. Gu Xinghe didn't expect me to agree so readily. Name your price. Luxury villas, sports cars. Nothing's off the table. She frowned. But are you really willing to have a C-section 2 months early? I looked troubled. What does it matter if you're unwilling? Nanan is still your son. My terms are simple. I don't trust domestic doctors. I want to seek treatment abroad from foreign specialists. I wasn't wrong about that. Foreign countries always seem more advanced in these unconventional medical techniques. Gu Xinghe agreed to my terms without hesitation. He booked the overnight flight immediately, boarding the plane with me, heavily pregnant, and Su Xiaomei along with her child inside the cabin wearing a mask. Gu Wennan looked utterly exhausted, his eyes burning with hostility when they met mine. He whispered to Su Xiaomei, Mom, what if she backs out? I'm terrified of dying abroad. Su Xiaomei patted his frail shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry, if she dares play tricks, your father will make sure she and that bastard in her womb join you in the grave. I closed my eyes with a sneer, gently stroking my belly. Oh, my dear baby, they probably have no idea yet. The moment they boarded that plane, their lives began ticking down. The plane landed in Chicago. Gu Xinghe immediately purchased 2 villas to prevent me from escaping. He stationed over 20 bodyguards outside the villa to protect me that night. While he was showering, I managed to get hold of his phone. It showed his chat history with Su Xiaomei. Su Xiaomei, Xinghe, once we've collected the cord blood, we're getting back together, no matter how much she protests. Gu Xinghe, obviously, if it weren't to save Nan, why would I have fake divorced you to marry her? No wonder Su Xiaomei called my child a medical instrument for saving lives back when they were fighting. Gu Xinghe pursued me under the pretense of being single just to spite her. He refused to hold our wedding ceremony, citing that his father had passed away less than 3 years prior. After learning I was pregnant, he suddenly vanished. Soon after, he confessed he was still married. For our child's sake, I accompanied him to finalize his divorce before we registered our own marriage. It turned out Nanan had already been diagnosed with leukemia at that time. Keep scrolling down. She won't get the chance to make a scene anymore. Didn't you volunteer to come abroad, then stay here forever? So Gu Xinghe readily agreed to my overseas trip because he never intended to let me return. With a cold smirk, I changed a scheduled expert call to my brother-in-law Chihi's number, then I sent a message to my younger sister Fu Rongrong. Ready for this? My sister replied almost instantly, sis, let's do this. My faint smile reflected on the darkened phone screen. Alright, the show's about to begin. Gu Wennan's condition has worsened. The surgery was moved up a few days ahead of schedule. I suggested going out for a walk. Gu Xinghe firmly refused, worried that any mishap could ruin the whole plan. I pouted with wounded pride. I want to buy some clothes for the baby. His expression remained unchanged. With a trembling voice, I stroked my belly. If we really lose the baby, just think how heartbroken he'd be knowing his own father wouldn't even buy him clothes. What if he comes looking for you someday? What? I whispered while blowing air behind his ear. Gu Xinghe's arm instantly broke out in goosebumps. He looked visibly uncomfortable. Didn't the experts say administering specific medication 2 months premature can stimulate cell growth? The baby will survive and thrive, I scoffed. As if such a miracle drug really existed, what mother wouldn't want to deliver her baby as quickly as possible? Just some nonsense my brother-in-law made up, probably worried I'd back out. He grabbed his coat and summoned all the bodyguards. It's just a dress. Our Gu family could buy the whole mall without batting in. Let's just grab it and go. Though reluctant, Gu Xinghe agreed anyway to avoid my tantrums inside the mall. Despite being pregnant, I stubbornly kept shopping for over an hour. Gu Xinghe was growing impatient. I shook my head. I giggled and tugged at his arm coquettishly. Just one last thing, then we'll go home. Carrying a maternity dress, I entered the fitting room under his weary gaze. Sis, it's been 10 years. I've missed you to death. The moment I stepped in, my sister Rongrong threw her arms around me in a tight embrace. Inside the cramped fitting room, the mirror reflected 2 identical faces, except one had a baby bump, and the other didn't. That's right, my sister Rongrong and I are twins. Nobody could tell us apart except my parents. With Fu Rongrong's plump figure, she looked exactly like my pregnant self. Gu Xinghe knew I had a biological sister living abroad, but I never told him we were identical twins. Didn't he secretly swap my baby in our past life? This time, I'll give him a taste of his own medicine. Rongrong, aren't you the least bit suspicious about my rebirth? Fu Rongrong quickly applied my makeup and strapped on the fake pregnancy belly. Sis, the day you died, I had a dream. I dreamed Gu Xinghe tampered with the brakes, causing your sudden car crash. They didn't rush to operate on your bloodied body, just hurried to cut the baby out first. Later, when you were helpless in that wheelchair, that bastard couple pushed you down the stairs. Your blood and your nephew stained the entire dream crimson. We were all weeping, yet they stood there laughing. Fu Rongrong gritted her teeth. That bastard and his whore, murderers, the lot of them, they deserve to die. Yet I couldn't shake my concern for her and Chi-He. Fu Rongrong grasped my hand. Sis, we're not afraid. In America, anything can be justified in the name of freedom. The day of the surgery, I was wheeled into the delivery room. Su Xiaomei let out a relieved sigh, linking arms with Gu Xinghe as she sneered. Fu Wanwan really does love you. Shame about her dim wits, and you're heartless enough not to feel sorry for her. She's just a plaything. How could she ever compare to you? The nurse said Nanan's nosebleed wouldn't stop. She needed immediate isolation. Su Xiaomei, distrustful of the bodyguard, gritted her teeth and entrusted Gu Xinghe. Keep an eye on Fu Wanwan. Once we secure the cord blood, this whole ordeal will be over. Before entering the isolation chamber, she gave Gu Wennan some encouragement. Hang in there, son. Mom and dad will be waiting for you when you come out. But to everyone's surprise, I, who had been waiting in the delivery room, moments away from a C-section, vanished into thin air from the operating table. Gu Xinghe went mad. He frantically searched the operating room, cursing wildly. The bodyguards immediately pulled up the surveillance footage from the entrance, but aside from a few masked nurses coming and going, there was no sign of any pregnant woman. Leaving with bloodshot eyes, he roared at the hospital director. Where is she? How could a living person just vanish? The dean couldn't make sense of his outburst and called the police directly. This surgery was conducted confidentially across departments to begin with. He'd promised the specialists complete discretion. Officially it was labeled as routine bone marrow donation, but in reality, it involved umbilical cord blood treatment. But Su Xiaomei kept sobbing and begging Gu Xinghe to find someone. Gu Xinghe had no choice but to confess everything. The dean muttered something, and the interpreter explained. The dean says that expert you mentioned went abroad for further studies yesterday. Gu Xinghe was stunned, collapsing to the ground with an ashen face. Then who's been contacting me all this time promising the surgery? Su Xiaomei slapped Gu Xinghe hard across the face. Gu Xinghe, is this how unreliable you are? Mixing up doctors is bad enough, but how could you lose track of a full-grown person? Even as the police pulled her away, she kept screaming at the top of her lungs. Nanan's already in the isolation ward. If we can't find Fu Ruanruan, he won't make it. He won't make it. Gu Xinghe clutched his swollen face in panic and grabbed the officer's arm. My wife vanished without a trace in this hospital. She's pregnant. You've got to help me find her. Officers combed every department inch by inch, but came up empty-handed. Gu Xinghe was ready to tear up the delivery room floorboard by board. Little did they know, Fu Rongrong removed her fake pregnancy belly after entering the OR and strutted out in nurse scrubs. She just walked in and started complaining to me about how unbearably stuffy this fake pregnancy belly is. Soon after, my brother-in-law Chiha returned carrying several bags of groceries. He tossed the snapped phone card into the trash and rolled up his sleeves to start prepping the vegetables. Didn't sis say she was craving hot pot? We're having it for lunch. This kind of surgery was already ethically questionable, and the police were at a dead end since I couldn't go out. Fu Rongrong took an extended leave to stay with me. Weeks passed, and everything was fine on my end. But then, on the other end of the wiretap, Gu Xinghe and Su Xiaomei were locked in a heated argument. This is all your fault. You had to listen to her and come to America. It's been a whole week and we still can't find her. What are we going to do about Nan? And you call yourself the CEO of Gu Corporation. Can't even handle such a simple matter properly. How embarrassing. Gu Xinghe was growing impatient. Could you stop dawdling? Who knows how she just vanished into thin air? You're embarrassing me. Isn't your screaming and shouting way more humiliating? Even at her worst, Fu Ruanruan would never act like a shrew like you. Enraged, Su Xiaomei started fighting with him. Cut the crazy act, will you? A sharp slap rang out as Su Xiaomei burst into loud sobs. Gu Xinghe, are you even human? How dare you hit me? Now you remember how wonderful she was. Huh, fine, go find her then. Bring my son back to life, and I'll get out of your way. Gu Xinghe remained silent for a long while. The sound of tearing fabric echoed moments later. A wiretap. He sneered into the receiver, his voice dripping with malice. Fu Ruanruan, you're listening, aren't you? Playing games with me. Heh, you've got some nerve. You want to find out what happens to people who mess with me? I know you never left the country. Your due date's in what? A month. Keep hiding. Have your bastard child in secret. Just pray I don't find you. A screeching burst of static followed. Farong covered her ears with a frown. Sis, Gu Wennan won't last a month. Dragging this out will finish him for sure. But what about Gu Xinghe? He'll move heaven and earth to find us. I'm afraid he might hurt you and my nephew. I glanced at the gun on the wall and smiled. See, he brought this on himself. Didn't he? Gu Wennan died 3 days before the due date. He learned the news at the hospital. They say he kept bleeding from the nose until the end, murmuring weakly, I'll never trust you people again. Su Xiaomei fainted on the spot. Gu Xinghe smashed the door glass with one punch. Fu Rongrong helped me prepare the delivery essentials. Sis, he's got people in every hospital. I heard Gu Xinghe's already searching the next block over. It's just a matter of days now. Sensing my anxiety, she picked up a tiny outfit and held it against my belly. Don't worry, sweetheart. Auntie would lay down her life to protect you and your mom. The moment our words faded, the landline rang in the house. It was Gu Xinghe calling. His voice was hoarse. Fu Ruanruan is your twin sister, right? You two pulled off this identity switch pretty well, didn't you? Tell me where you live. I know this was all her idea. I don't blame you. But she killed my son, and I need to confront her face to face. Fu Rongrong sneered. Who do you think you are to say you don't blame me? I should be asking why you killed my nephew, yet you have the nerve to question me. Gu Xinghe, if your conscience was eaten by a dog, go bark at the mutt for it. Gu Xinghe's voice trembled. Don't you believe the Gu family will make you pay for this? Shut your trap. Without the old man leaving you the family fortune, you'd be nothing. With your petty mindset and twisted values, you're a disgrace to the Gu name. Fu Rongrong repeated my words verbatim, each sentence striking Gu Xinghe like a dagger to the heart. Nothing infuriated him more than being called a worthless parasite living off the Gu family's wealth. Fine then, start preparing my son's funeral. Fu Rongrong spat out contemptuously. Bring it on, dumbass. The call ended. Fu Rongrong went to check the surveillance cameras installed outside the courtyard again. She clapped her hands. Sis, complete 360-degree coverage within a 100-meter radius. Even so, my sister and brother-in-law took turns keeping vigil. The night before my due date they arrived. The baby was kicking up a storm, keeping me awake until I finally moved to the living room. The room remained unlit under the dim moonlight. Fu Rongrong and He spotted me emerging, pressed fingers to their lips in unison, then pointed at the surveillance monitor on screen. Gu Xinghe and Su Xiaomei had surrounded my courtyard with over a dozen bodyguards. They wore sunglasses and were bundled up head to toe. Then a few men broke the lock and barged in. The Door was banging loudly under their pounding. Chi glanced at me and Fu Rongrong, asking, "Who's there?" "I'm here to take my wife home," I responded. "I'm not going back with you. Just leave." Su Xiaomei started hurling insults, trying to provoke me. "You fucking bitch. You killed my son and think you can get away with it. Come out now, or we're coming in." Rongrong Fu's always had a sharp tongue since childhood. With her booming voice, she'd roll up her sleeves and hurl the filthiest insults. Across the street, "Oh wow, calling someone a whore while cozying up with her husband at night. How pathetic can you be? The hell are you barking about? Your son got what he deserved. Go ask the king of hell if you want answers." Su Xiaomei was fuming with rage, gasping for breath. "You're the one who deserves to die, not me. What the hell are you standing there for? Break down the door, drag those bitches out. That foul-mouthed whore won't know what hit her when I'm done slapping her." Senseless, as the door shuddered under violent impacts, we activated the recording and shouted toward the entrance, "We're armed, back off if you value your life." One bodyguard hesitated visibly. "Mr. Gu, this is literally a home invasion," Su Xiaomei said with sarcasm. "Scared? Then piss off, you worthless coward." Gu Xinghe curled his lip. "They're just bluffing out of fear. Pull the trigger." "Does Fu Ruanruan even have the guts? Bring Fu Ruanruan back today, and I'll buy each of you a villa." The bodyguard's eyes lit up. Instantly energized by the bribe, they began pounding on the door, but they didn't notice Gu Xinghe quietly pulling Su Xiaomei backward. They might actually have pistols. Fu Ruanruan wouldn't dare. But her brother-in-law's unpredictable. If things turn violent later, let's keep our distance. Su Xiaomei's eyes gleamed. "True, you're being quite thorough about this." He carefully took down the rifle from the wall. He wiped the barrel while muttering, "Thoughtful my ass, this is a shotgun. One blast could take out a dozen. Step inside and I'll turn them into ground meat." When they ignored our warnings, we had no choice but to grab our guns and stare grimly into the camera. We were sound asleep when someone started pounding on the door, screaming they'd kill us. I didn't want to do this, but self-defense left me no choice. After a violent impact, the door burst open. Several figures rushed in instantly. Chiha's gun roared in his hand. Sparks flew under the dim yellow light. Several bodyguards were blasted backward, instantly collapsing motionless on the ground. The next wave rushing in didn't even have time to react before gunfire dropped them all. The beige floor became a gory mess, drenched in crimson. Gu Xinghe and Su Xiaomei were stunned when they saw over a dozen people drop dead instantly. They collapsed to the ground in unison. Chihi blew smoke from the gun barrel before handing it to me. "Sis, I'm leaving these two main courses for you. When disaster strikes, who isn't afraid of death?" When I pointed the gun at them, both men recoiled in fear. Su Xiaomei completely lost her earlier bravado. She fell to her knees with a sob. "I was wrong. Fu Ruanruan, please spare me. I lost my mind after my son's death. Don't kill me, I beg you." Gu Xinghe forced composure as he stood up. "Ruanruan, we're sorry, just let us go. I won't hold those deaths against you. Let's call it even about Nanan's matter." "Alright, wipe the slate clean." He saw me clutching my belly, his voice trembling. "Besides, Ruan, if you kill me, the child in your belly will be fatherless." Su Xiaomei seemed to have found a weakness. She stood up, shielding Gu Xinghe, and whispered, "She can't bring herself to hurt you. Go grab the gun." Gu Xinghe thought I hadn't heard him. He stood up and started walking, trying to reason with me. "Let's talk this through." "Okay, put the gun down. I know you can't bring yourself to shoot me." Just when he thought he had me, I pulled the trigger. Bang! The closer, the deadlier. Gu Xinghe's face exploded in an instant under the moonlight. His contorted body lay lifeless on the ground. The gun's recoil sent me staggering, but luckily he caught me. A sharp pain shot through my abdomen. While the two were checking on me, Su Xiaomei quickly slipped into the car and drove off. Fu Rongrong grabbed the gun to give chase, but he called out to stop her. "Forget about her. Get my sister to the hospital now. The baby's coming." The baby arrived a night earlier than expected. It's a boy. My younger sister and her husband delivered the baby just like me, full of health and vitality. I didn't give him the name we originally agreed on. Instead, I named him Fuxing. He's a new life, and so am I. Police officers waited outside the delivery room. My sister Rongrong Fu handled all communications with the police. Surveillance footage and eyewitness accounts from neighbors clearly prove their group forcibly entered our residence. Our defensive actions were justified. In the US, shooting burglars during home invasions is completely justified. Fu Rongrong still felt unsettled after seeing the police off. "What a shame, that woman got away." I patted her shoulder reassuringly. "I believe the heavens are keeping her alive to suffer more than death ever could." I had to return home shortly after because we needed to register the newborn's residency. Both Fu Rongrong and I were wiping away tears before boarding the plane. "We've caused You so much trouble, even making you relocate because of us. When are you coming back? I'll treat you and your husband to dinner. Fu Rongrong sighed helplessly. Sis, we've just settled down here. I'm not even sure what I could do if we returned. Mom's getting older. I'll work a few more years to save up, then come back for good. She placed the longevity lock around the newborn's neck, playfully teasing him. Little one, make lots of money when you grow up. Your auntie's counting on you. Waving the baby's tiny hand in a squeaky voice. No problem, Auntie, I'll do my best. Farang held me tightly, sobbing for a long time before finally voicing her concern. Sis, you killed the Gus' only son. They'll definitely come after you. We should call the police now. Have them meet your flight and request full protective detail. No need. I glanced down at the newborn in my arms and smiled serenely. His protection alone is more than enough. He's the last heir of the Gu family. What have I to fear? Things went much smoother than I expected. The elders of the Gu family were utterly grief-stricken, but after learning the truth, they realized no matter what they did, the family fortune would all go to the newborn anyway, so they simply turned a blind eye. I gave the little one a pat. Seems your aunt had every reason to believe in you. Within months, Fu Rongrong and Chi He moved their entire family back to China. Both of them had all the necessary certifications and qualifications. I bought them a villa and established a private maternity hospital. On my mom's birthday, I took the newborn to the hospital to pick them both up. On the way back, they were playing with the baby and beaming with joy. Passing by the square, we saw a group of seniors dancing to square dance music. The baby couldn't resist wiggling to the music in my arms. My nephew likes it. Let's go take a look. Just as we stepped onto the stairs, a figure came charging at me. Farang reacted instantly and yanked me aside. The person tumbled head over heels down the steps. And wouldn't you know it, a car came speeding by. The onlookers gasped in shock. We all scrambled down in a hurry. There in the twilight, lying on the ground, was none other than Su Xiaomei. Her face turned deathly pale. She convulsed several times before losing consciousness. The crushed leg had already become deformed. It looks eerily similar to my past life. Upon my return that day, Fu Rongrong accused Su Xiaomei of trespassing. She spent a fortune to settle the lawsuit and finally made it back home, but without Gushing his protection. She's been living hand to mouth, running into me today and seeing my happy family. She wanted to take us both down with her. The driver rushed out to call the police and an ambulance. Later, I heard she became disabled, unable to care for herself, confined to a wheelchair day after day. Sometime after that, I caught a glimpse of her once more on family photo day. She was hunched over, straining to pick through trash. Passers-by whispered and pointed. She used to live in the lap of luxury. But then I heard she faked a divorce with her ex-husband to save their leukemia-stricken child. She tricked another woman into getting pregnant and forced an early C-section to harvest umbilical cord blood. In the end, her son didn't make it, her husband died, and now she's ended up like this. Well, she's certainly reaping what she sowed. That's why people must keep their conscience clear, or karma will come knocking. I lifted my head. The sky was crystal blue. Thank you, heavens above, for granting me rebirth. I remained silent. The end. Story 2. My boyfriend was the top scorer in the college entrance exam, but he applied to a shady vocational school. I convinced him to change his application to Tsinghua University's computer science program. After graduation, we earned millions annually and had a blissful married life. But on the day his childhood sweetheart got married, he smashed my leg with a computer tower. If it weren't for you stopping me, I could have gone to the same university as Yaya. I should have been the one to marry her. So, he had been holding a grudge all these years for me persuading him to change his college application. Back then, in front of our child, I was beaten to death by domestic violence. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn. Watching the computer screen, I saw my boyfriend had filled all his college application choices with that shady vocational college where his unrequited love was enrolled. He turned his head and asked me with a smile, "Baby, what do you think of my college choices?" 1. Baby, what do you think of my college choices? Hearing my boyfriend's words, I instinctively shivered and covered my broken right leg. Don't hit me. In my previous life, on the day my boyfriend's white moonlight got married, Sumoding's handsome face twisted as he rushed into the study with reddened eyes. He ignored that I was in a remote meeting and directly picked up the computer tower to smash my right leg on the computer screen. Hundreds of online colleagues witnessed me being assaulted and let out panicked cries. Our child rushed into the room to protect me, but was kicked away by him. The small figure flung several meters away in the chaotic study room. At the moment when life was about to end, covered in blood, I looked utterly bewildered. Why, Sumoding, why would you do this? He smashed the computer tower viciously onto my head. Blood blossoms bloomed. Before dying, I heard him gnash his teeth and Say, it's all because you convinced me to change my college application back then, otherwise I could have attended the same university as Yaya. I should have been the one to marry her. So he had been harboring resentment all this time about me persuading him to change his application. He said if I hadn't persuaded him to change his college application choices, he might have ended up with his first love as he wished. How ridiculous. Even combined, me and our child can't compare to the weight of a single wedding invitation from his first love, sweetheart. In the cramped internet cafe, Sumoding's call brought me back to reality. What do you think of my college application choices? He asked again. I turned my gaze to the faintly glowing computer screen. For every blank space in the application form, he applied to the literature department of that shady vocational college. I blinked and lowered my eyes without showing any emotion. Oh, that's good, Sumoding. This time, you shouldn't hold a grudge against me anymore too. Hearing my words, Sumoding froze for a moment, his gaze carrying scrutiny. Baby, do you really think I filled out my college applications well? I stared fixedly at him. Don't ask for my opinion. This is your own matter. Make your own decision. Sumoding awkwardly averted his gaze. Several seconds passed as his finger hovered indecisively over the mouse. Maybe I should fill in a few more alternative choices. I couldn't help but sneer inwardly, so he knew all along that using his provincial top score results to apply to a diploma mill was a waste in my past life. I painstakingly advised him not to throw away 18 years of hard work, questioning how he could apply to some obscure vocational college after achieving the provincial top score. He finally agreed to change his application choices. Back then, I thought I had persuaded him, but now it's clear he was just going with the flow. In the end, he resented me for making him change his aspirations, even going so far as to kill me with his own hands. Suddenly, Sumoding's phone rang urgently. He cautiously glanced at me a few times. Hey, yeah, the caller was his first love, Suyu, top student. Which university did you apply to? Can I visit you there later? Suyu's voice was clear and bright, with a rising inflection at the end. She was the school's queen bee, with dyed hair and manicured nails. Yet she had an unexpectedly innocent face. Every day after school, various social figures and troublemakers would pick her up on motorcycles, taking her to race and fight. Hearing Suyu's voice, Sumoding's expression softened. I've filled out my college application, but I'll keep it a secret from you for now. It'll be a surprise later. With that, he finally made up his mind and clicked the mouse. Are you sure you want to submit your preference information? Once submitted, it cannot be modified. He pressed confirm. The web page began to load. After a few seconds, it redirected to the submission success page, with a gray screen indicating it was uneditable. As they were on the phone, my gaze also fell upon my computer screen. My grades weren't as good as Sumoding's, but they still ranked among the top in the province. Back then, my first choice was Tsinghua University's computer science department, but just because I was one rank short, I missed the chance to attend Tsinghua. This has been weighing on my mind for years. As someone who's obsessed with prestigious schools just one spot away, I really can't accept this time. If Sumoding doesn't apply for Tsinghua's computer science program again, would I be able to take that admission spot and get into Tsinghua? 3. After submitting my application, I watched as Sumoding hung up the phone. I began to speak. Sumoding, let's break up. Sumoding and I were childhood neighbors, and I thought I knew him well, but it wasn't until my death in my previous life that I realized his true love was Suyu. He only married me because his mother took a fancy to my family's money. Now that I've been reborn, I just want to stay as far away from him as possible. Sumoding widened his eyes. You're willing to break up with me? In his eyes, I had a crush on him for years, and even the confession came from me. I was practically his lapdog. What's there to be reluctant about? Alright, then we're officially over. Under Sumoding's stunned gaze, I decisively picked up my bag and left. From afar, I heard his furious roar. Shinyushi, don't you dare regret this. No, he's the one who shouldn't regret it. In the following period, I started looking for computer projects online in Advance, Indiana. My previous life, my college years were as aimless and drifting as most people's. The year I graduated, I signed with a small company, earning meager wages, working overtime every day, and being subjected to my boss's PUA. That's when I came to my senses, started focusing on practicing coding problems and revising my resume. After several job hops, I finally landed an offer at the same major internet company where Sumoding worked. With my salary doubled this time, I won't take any detours and will properly plan my life path. In the days after submitting the college applications, the Sumoding household was basking in their glory. Sue's mother, still unaware her son had applied to a diploma mill, kept boasting downstairs about her son being the provincial top scorer in the neighborhood. Many high school seniors are taking the college entrance exams this year. Mrs. Su deliberately went out of her way to provoke parents whose children failed the college entrance exams. How could someone not even get into a Tier 1 university? Must be an IQ problem. Better take them to the hospital for a checkup. Whenever she saw me, she'd tilt her nose up and glare sideways at me and my parents. How many points did Cece score? Surely not as high as my son. I always say girls just aren't as smart as boys. My dad was so angry he rushed forward to argue, but I grabbed his arm. To stop him, I casually brushed it off. Oh yes, Auntie Sue, you're absolutely right about everything. When we got home, I tried to console my parents. Why bother getting angry with such people? Just wait for them to self-destruct. Sure enough, the next day, Sumoding brought Suyu home. Dad, Mom, this is my girlfriend, Mr. and Mrs. Su turned their heads upon hearing this, just in time to see Suyu wearing smoky makeup, high heels and stockings, with a cigarette in her hand. The two of them nearly fainted, for Sumoding stood in front of Suyu. I genuinely like yeah, and I hope you can accept her. You, Mother Su clutched her chest in anger. You want to be with this shameless little vixen. She's not even as good as Shinyushi next door. At least Shinyushi's family owns 5 properties. Sumoding remained stubborn. Shinyushi can't even compare to Yaya's little finger. You don't understand. I've decided that Suyu is the only one for me in this lifetime. Mother Su angrily beat her chest. You're still young. What do you mean she's the only one? What's wrong with being young? This is the first time I've liked someone so much. Sumoding took a deep breath. Since childhood, I've obeyed you in everything. Can't you let me make my own decision just this once? The group stood in a tense standoff at that moment. A courier happened to emerge from the elevator. Room 601, there's a package for you. Mother Su took the document and quickly tore it open. Only a few large characters were written on it. As City Vocational Technical College 2, Sumoding. She rolled her eyes and fainted on the spot. When she woke up, this mother in her 50s, who always had to outdo others, burst into loud sobs. You unfilial child, have you gone mad? You didn't apply to Tsinghua, you enrolled in some no-name college. Son, you're going to be the death of me. 5. Father Su squatted on the ground, smoking with a worried frown. Mother Su cried and hit Sumoding in frustration. The door cracks in the hallway quietly opened, with several neighbors peeking out to watch the drama. Didn't both Tsinghua and Peking University call you? Why on earth did you apply to a vocational college? Mother Su raised her hand and slapped Suyu twice. It's this little vixen who led you astray, isn't it? I will absolutely never agree to you being together. Break up with her right now. I came back from going out with my parents and happened to witness this scene. Without a word, Sue's mother rushed up to me and shoved me to the ground. Shinyushi, you went to the internet cafe together to fill out the applications. Why didn't you stop my son when you saw him making random choices? My mother helped me up and scolded Sue's mother. What's wrong with you? How is your son's college application any of my daughter's business? Mrs. Su was panting heavily, glaring at our family with hatred. Coincidentally, the neighbor who had previously been mocked by her for having brain problems if you can't get into a top-tier university had been watching the commotion and finally understood the situation. Having gotten his revenge, he laughed heartily and mocked Mrs. Su. Old woman, you used to look down on my daughter for only getting into a second-tier college. Now your provincial top-scoring son enrolled in a vocational school. He can't even compare to my daughter. Provoked by these words, Mrs. Su immediately grabbed Sumoding by the shoulders. I've worked hard to raise you for 18 years. You were supposed to go to Tsinghua. How could you be so foolish? Come on, we're going to the education bureau. We'll change your application back. Yet Sumoding remained motionless. Let's go. Come with me right now. Mrs. Su insisted relentlessly. Sumoding finally raised his head. His face was somber as he pushed past his mother with his shoulder, walking straight to Suyu's side, tenderly touching the red mark on her face. Mother Su let out an "io" as she fell onto Father Su. Supported by Father Su, she looked at her son who had grown taller than her at some point, vaguely realizing something. What are you trying to do? I'm already 18 years old. I'm an adult now. Sumoding spoke slowly. I just wanted to attend the same school as the person I like. What's wrong with that? Since I could achieve the top provincial exam score, it proves I'm a genius. The path chosen by geniuses is something you ordinary people could never understand. I have my own dreams to pursue, my own path to choose. I hate my stagnant life that's like a pool of dead water. I hate the version of myself that obediently follows your orders. From now on, stay out of my life. Sumoding clenched his fists. sweeping his gaze across everyone around him. His eyes lingered briefly on me before shifting away. One day, he said, I'll prove to you all that my choice was right. Suyu was deeply moved and hugged Sumoding. You actually changed your college preference for me. Yes. I told you I'd give you a surprise. Who told me to like you? Suyu sniffled. I like you too, Sumoding. Sumoding ruffled Suyu's hair and whispered, just having you say that makes it all worth it. None of them understand me. Only you do, Suyu. I'll live happily with you and prove them all wrong. Hearing their conversation, Mother Su finally understood that the only reason Sumoding applied to a vocational college was to be with Suyu. Her eyes bulged, bloodshot with rage, could only watch helplessly as Sumoding and Suyu walked away hand in hand, leaving sweetly. Suddenly, the elevator doors opened, and the delivery guy poked his head out again. There's one more package, I forgot earlier. The courier handed me another document bag and gave me a thumbs up. Qinghua's admission letter. What an impressive girl. Hearing this, Sumoding looked over in surprise. Mrs. Su even collapsed weakly, sitting on the ground, making incomprehensible hoarse sounds from her throat. Little Tiger bought anti-piracy watermark. Find book robot selection. Little Tiger. Reliable, definitely trustworthy, no pitfalls. My parents surrounded me with joy. It seems that without Sumoding as a variable, I indeed became the last person admitted to Tsinghua University's computer science department in our province based on academic ranking. 6. The news of Sumoding changing his college preference for his white moonlight quickly spread among classmates, and even reporters specifically interviewed him about it on camera. Sumoding held Suyu's hand. As long as I can be with. Yeah, I will never regret it. Suyu's eyes sparkled with pride as she leaned against Sumoding's shoulder. Smiling, the class group chat exploded. Holy crap, the provincial top scorer actually chose a no-name college just for Suyu. She's so damn lucky. Happiness what? Don't you think this is a bit insane? Respect and blessings then. They've already declared themselves a genius. How could we mere mortals understand? On graduation dinner day, Sumoding and Suyu naturally became the center of attention, with everyone whispering about them. Even the homeroom teacher hesitated to speak several times. Sighing deeply at the dining table, I was sitting with my deskmate, chatting quietly. Unexpectedly, Sumoding suddenly grabbed my arm roughly and yanked me up from the chair. Shinyushi, are you asking for trouble? In front of all the classmates, Sumoding glared at me fiercely. What are you talking about? I pulled my wrist free. Sumoding said, it wasn't until I went back that day that I realized, you were jealous of me being with Suyu, so you deliberately tattled to my mom about my college application, didn't you? You even spread my business all over the class group chat. Shinyushi, do you like me that much? Are you that desperate? I was so angry I laughed. Are you out of your mind? The reason your mom found out you changed your application was because she received your admission letter, wasn't it? That day your mom made such a huge scene, mocking so many people in the neighborhood about their grades, and you even gave an interview to the reporters. Is it really that strange the news spread to the school? I sneered coldly, blaming me for something that has absolutely nothing to do with me. Sumoding, don't even try to drag me into this. Get lost. Hearing my words, Sumoding took a step back in disbelief. My deskmate spoke up for me, with a sarcastic tone. Yeah, you clearly changed your own application choices, so why are you afraid of others talking about it? The homeroom teacher let out a long sigh. Sumoding, if you regret it, you can repeat the year. That would still be better than going to a vocational college. But before the homeroom teacher could finish speaking, Sumoding abruptly interrupted. Mind your own business. You have no idea what I really want. I'm the provincial top scorer. Even if I enroll in a vocational college, I'll still live better than all of you. Grabbing Suyu's hand, he angrily mounted his motorcycle. Before leaving, Suyu stuck out her tongue at us as if silently boasting. See, no matter how much you try to persuade him, it's useless. He only loves me. 7. Soon, September arrived. I stepped through the gates of Tsinghua, fulfilling my dream of attending a prestigious university. Having set my goals early, I lived each day with great busyness, attending classes during the day, coding at night, working on open-source projects to polish my resume, assisting professors in the lab. Even every holiday was spent competing in contests. For years passed in a flash. During the winter break of my senior year, I went back home for a visit. Little did I know, I happened to run into Sumoding, who was also returning to his hometown in his freshman year. He enrolled in that vocational college, became the center of attention, won a substantial scholarship, and along with Suyu, they were practically the talk of the school's literature department. He was quite proud of this. During the summer vacation of his senior year, After being interviewed, many people online criticized him for not being clear-headed, so you seized the opportunity to create a dedicated self-media account titled The Daily Life of a Top Scorer and His Girlfriend, documenting their lives. They used the money earned from self-media to rent an apartment off campus and live together. At first, Sumoting intended to study hard in university, but Suyu had no interest in studying at all. She skipped classes every day to hang out with her delinquent friends, frequenting bars, KTVs, and arcades, getting drunk every night and being groped by those friends as they brought her home. This led to numerous arguments between her and Sumoting. Mind your own business. I never liked studying anyway. Don't you hate being controlled by your parents too? Why are you trying to control me now? Sumoting was left speechless. The vocational school had a chaotic atmosphere, and Sumoting, who diligently paid attention in class, was an outlier, often mocked and ostracized by others. So he stopped studying, skipping classes with Suyu to have fun, blending into the crowd. They only pulled all-nighters to cram during finals week before exams in the first semester of freshman year. Sumoting still felt somewhat nervous before exams, but when the results came out, he realized that after just casually studying for a few days, he had topped his major, making him take exams even less seriously. When an easy path is laid out before you, it's hard not to choose it. As specialized courses increased, last-minute cramming methods gradually stopped working. Thus, Sumoting's expectations for his academic performance kept lowering, from initially aiming for top of the class to eventually settling for just passing grades. Not only was he unashamed, but he even bragged about it on social media. Only fools keep working hard. College isn't that big a deal. Just don't fail. Over these 4 years, Mrs. Su initially refused to accept reality, constantly urging Sumoting to retake the college entrance exams, but Sumoting never came home during holidays and even cut off contact with his family, forcing Mrs. Su to finally compromise. So this year, Sumoting finally returned home for a visit after 4 years apart. At first, we couldn't even recognize each other. Sumoting's body had swollen noticeably, his back hunched, neck protruding forward, with Suyu's initials tattooed on his arm. Dark circles were evident under his eyes as he held a cigarette between his lips. The scholarly air of his 18-year-old self had completely vanished, replaced by a somewhat greasy demeanor. Meanwhile, during my free time at university, I began learning about makeup, skincare, and fashion, regularly hitting the gym to lose weight and tone up. From originally being just somewhat pretty, I developed into what could now be considered a minor beauty. When Sumoting saw me, I didn't miss that flash of admiration in his eyes. Shinyushi, seeing me, Suyu immediately stood guard defensively in front of Sumoting. Perhaps due to years of irregular sleep and alcoholism, her face had sagged. That once proud, innocent face of hers was now marked by exhaustion, with deep nasolabial folds that made her appear somewhat harsh despite her young age. 8. We shared the same taxi home from the high-speed rail station. On the way back, Suyu suddenly grabbed my wrist, glaring at my Bulgari bracelet with wary eyes. This bracelet costs over 10,000 yuan. How could you possibly afford it? You're wearing a fake, aren't you? I gave her a cool glance. From my junior year last year until now, I've been interning at well-known internet companies. Combined with my scholarships over the years and project shares from the lab, I've saved at least over 200,000 yuan. It's just buying a bracelet. Why bother getting a fake one? But seeing the obvious jealousy in Suyu's eyes, I still chimed in. Right, a fake. Bought from a street stall for 10 bucks. Suyu immediately became smug. I knew you couldn't afford the real one. At this moment, Sumoting in the front row answered a phone call, apparently from his mother. Mom, don't worry, I'm definitely going to pass the postgraduate entrance exam this time. I'll apply to Tsinghua University for sure. From his words, I learned that Sumoting wanted to pursue graduate studies at Tsinghua University and had just taken the entrance exam this year. Before getting off the car, Sumoting winked at me. Shinyushi, see you at Tsinghua. I twitched the corner of my mouth and pulled my suitcase upstairs expressionlessly. During the winter vacation, the Sumoting family next door lived quite harmoniously. After Sumoting returned home, his mother bustled about with a superior attitude, showing off everywhere in the neighborhood. My top-scoring son is back home, and this time he's definitely going to Tsinghua for grad school. I heard your daughter is studying at a non-prestigious university. Honestly, what's the point? She might as well go home and have babies. On the day the grad school exam results were released, Su's mother urged Sumoting to check his scores first thing in the morning. Hurry up and check, son, let's see how many points you scored. Sumoting was forcibly dragged out of bed, impatiently pushing his mother away as he reached for his phone with bare arms. Enter your exam admission number and ID card number. then click search a few seconds later. A scream echoed through the room. Mother Gu leaned shakily against the wall. What? How could you only score a little over 200 points? Su Moting's hand holding the phone was also trembling slightly. He pulled out a cigarette and shouted at Mrs. Su, stop making such a racket. Shut up. Then he muttered nervously, I was the top scorer in the province. I should have a bright future. On the same day, the girl whom Su's mother had mocked 4 years ago for attending a second-tier university knocked on my door. She smiled shyly at me and said she was also taking the postgraduate entrance exam this year. She had just checked her scores and found she could get into Tsinghua, so she came to ask me about some specialized course knowledge at Tsinghua. I warmly welcomed her. Hard work is the wisest investment a person can make. After winter break, I returned to school. From fragmented conversations during phone calls with my parents, I learned that Su Moting failed the postgraduate entrance exam and would start job hunting. At first, he scoffed and said, what's so hard about finding a job? I was the top scorer in the national college entrance exam, until reality taught him a lesson. It was already difficult for literature majors to find jobs, and he often carried himself with the superior attitude of being a top exam scorer. Even when interviewing for an ordinary clerical position, he demanded a monthly salary of 10,000 yuan. Naturally, no one would hire him. Many company HRs would end the interview immediately upon hearing the name of his obscure vocational school, without even letting him finish speaking. Sorry, but we prioritize graduates from 985 and 211 universities for this position. But I was the top scorer in the college entrance exam. The HR seemed amused. Oh, so what if you were the top scorer in the college entrance exams? Didn't you still graduate from some no-name university? Throughout the spring recruitment season, Su Moting ran around every day, constantly going to interviews only to be rejected, clutching his backpack on the subway while questioning his life choices. It wasn't until this moment that he realized how much damage his haphazardly filled college applications and aimless university life had done to his future, but he quickly pulled himself together again. 9 just failed the postgraduate entrance exam and can't find a job. That's all. At least he still has Suyu. Su Moting then remembered the self-media account Daily Life of the college entrance exam top scorer and his girlfriend, created by Suyu. This account earned him tens of thousands of yuan. During the 2 months of summer vacation after a long hiatus, he and Suyu started updating again, but each video only had a few hundred or dozen views. He angrily posted a rant on social media, blaming the short video platform for not giving him traffic. Below was a comment from one of his fans. To be brutally honest, your videos offer nothing new beyond the gimmick of being a top college entrance exam scorer. They're overly long, boring, unedited, and completely lack appeal in today's fast-paced era of viral short videos. Su Moting directly exposed this account and blocked it. At this point, he remembered his identity as a top scorer again and started a live stream. 2024 college entrance exam top scorer solves exam questions online. This time, he finally found the right path. When the baby-faced high school student took out the exercise and asked him for the solution, he was surprised to find that he had completely forgotten the knowledge from 4 years ago. Not to mention that over the past 4 years, the types of questions and exam scope for the college entrance exam have undergone significant changes. He stammered, his face turning red, and eventually ended the live stream. Those who had once followed him could only sigh in disappointment. Soon after, June arrived. I graduated from Tsinghua University with outstanding grades. This time, I successfully converted my internship into a full-time position and joined the internet company that I had only managed to enter after several job changes in my previous life. Having interned for 2 years, the department head trusted my abilities and often introduced me to superiors and clients. This is Shin Yushi, a Tsinghua graduate with excellent capabilities. With the minister's assistance, I joined the company's new billion-dollar investment project team the year I graduated, allowing me to fully realize my ambitions. As for Su Moting, I heard he finally faced reality and found a clerical job with Suyu paying a monthly salary of 2,000. I just didn't expect his company to be located near mine. That day after finishing dinner after work, I went shopping at the mall. Walking into the luxury store, I wanted to buy a bag for my mom. Just then, I happened to run into Su Moting and Suyu. Suyu was holding a cup of cheap bubble tea, peering enviously through the luxury store's display window when she happened to see the sales associate respectfully handing the bag to me. Su Moting stood behind Suyu carrying an old canvas bag, looking at me with complicated emotions. After making the payment, I walked out of the store but was stopped by Suyu. You bought the real thing. The bracelet you bought last time was genuine too. Don't touch me. I took a step back and shook off her hand. The saleswoman inside the store saw me being pulled by Suyu and quickly called security, surrounded by security guards. Suyu turned her head and shouted at Sumoding, I want this bag too. If Shinyushi can buy it, why can't I? Sumoding rubbed his temples. Our money is saved for the wedding, didn't you say? I don't care. I want this bag. In the end, Sumoding exhausted his bank card balance and even took out an installment loan before finally purchasing that bag. Suyu smiled happily. Sumoding looked at the red negative balance on his phone, his face showing distress and exhaustion, and I just watched from afar. How ironic. Sumoding, in our past life, our combined annual income was nearly $1 million. Living comfortably, yet you were never satisfied, always pining for Suyu. I'd like to ask, are you content with your life now? 10. Suyu didn't last long in her clerical job because of her bad temper. She offended the boss's wife, and Sumoding was also fired along with her. They started looking for jobs again without the status of fresh graduates. Both of them were devastated by the rejection messages from interviews. They couldn't find jobs for a whole year, and eventually gave up, spending their days lying in the rented apartment ordering takeout, occasionally going out with some troublemaker friends they met at bars to mooch meals. Those hooligan friends are no good people. One day they suggested taking Sumoding and Suyu for some excitement. Suyu readily agreed, but they didn't expect the so-called excitement to be robbery. Those hoodlums rode motorcycles as speed demons, rampaging and robbing recklessly on the dark city streets and remote roads, being an accomplice to robbery. For the first time, Sumoding was scared out of his wits, but thrill-seeking Suyu clapped her hands in delight, excitedly counting and recounting the few thousand yuan she got as her share. At first, Sumoding was still trembling with fear, holed up in the rental apartment all day, terrified that the police would come knocking. But days passed, then a week, then a month, and everything remained peaceful. So, on yet another night when the landlord came demanding rent, Sumoding put on his helmet, mounted the motorcycle, and had Suyu sit behind him. Come on, let's go rob someone too. They chose a road where the surveillance cameras were broken. At 3 a.m., a middle-aged woman wearing a mask appeared under the streetlight. The motorcycle engine roared loudly. Sumoding's palms sweated as he gripped the handlebars, his adrenaline surging. He felt a bit dizzy, with some ringing in his ears. Everything around him seemed to be spinning wildly when Suyu reached out to snatch the woman's bag. Everything reached its peak. Help, someone's robbing me, help. Sumoding didn't expect the woman to struggle so violently, even biting Suyu's arm hard with her teeth. Seeing Suyu injured, Sumoding jumped out of the car and frantically punched and kicked the woman in pain. The woman released Suyu's arm as if seeing something. The woman's pupils suddenly contracted and she stopped resisting. Bang, bang, bang. Sticky blood splattered. Sumoding felt like he couldn't stop himself. It wasn't until Suyu tightly grabbed him, her fingers digging deep into his flesh, that he finally snapped out of it. Only then did he realize that within just a few minutes, his forehead was completely drenched in sweat, and even his helmet had fallen off during the fight. He told Suyu to take the woman's bag. He himself slowly removed the man's mask. In that instant, the world fell into complete silence. Sumoding's eyes widened in horror, and after a few seconds of stunned silence, he uttered in disbelief, Mom. Mom, quick, call an ambulance. 11. Mother Sue traveled thousands of miles to visit her son in an unfamiliar city. To save money, she bought a night train ticket. Little did she expect to be robbed and severely beaten by her own son, leaving her unconscious in the hospital. Sumoding wept bitterly in the hospital. Suyu held his hand. It's okay, at least you still have me. This wasn't the first time Sumoding had heard those words. When he filled his college application with a diploma mill, he consoled himself that at least he still had Suyu. When he skipped university lectures to wander bars and arcades with Suyu, he comforted himself that at least he still had her. When he saw his neighbor Shinyushi graduate from Tsinghua University, work at an internet company, and live a glamorous life while he couldn't find a job, he comforted himself that at least he still had Suyu. But now, hearing these words, he was truly getting tired. He silently pushed away Suyu's hand. The hospital started pressing him to pay the fees. He borrowed money everywhere and also asked Suyu for help. Suyu agreed verbally, but that night, separated by a door, he heard Suyu say disdainfully, yeah, I'm already tired of playing with him. What does he have besides being the top scorer in the college entrance exams? Just a down-and-out dog who can't even find a job, and he's boring too. Sumoding burst into the room. On the other end of the phone was the questioning shout of a hoodlum friend. Meanwhile, Suyu herself was being pinned to the bed with Sumoding's hand around her neck. Her face turned crimson as she struggled with her limbs flailing in the air. Sumoding's eyes were red as he spoke word by word. You promised you'd stay by my side forever, then, come to hell with me. Su Moting had completely lost his mind. I don't know how he managed to find me at this moment in the pouring rain. He stood drenched below our company building, looking up at the corporate logo in his previous life. He was a Tsinghua computer science graduate who joined this company right after graduation, with a bright future ahead. The corner of his mouth twitched nervously, unclear whether it was a sob or a smile. A raindrop trailed from the corner of his eye. Holding the coffee I'd just bought downstairs, I was heading to a meeting when he called out to me, "Shinyushi, why?" His eyes were filled with malice and hatred. "Why didn't you help me change my application this time?" He rushed at me with a knife. 12, bang, the coffee in my hand fell. Its dark liquid mixing with rainwater and flowing into the city's sewers. I pinned him to the ground and shouted for security. In this life, I've maintained a fitness routine since college and even took up judo in my spare time. The perpetually indulgent Su Moting is no match for me at all. I leaned close to his ear and whispered softly, "What's wrong? Isn't this exactly what you wanted?" Su Moting stared at me, his face full of disbelief. You've been reborn too," I simply said calmly. "In our previous life, I advised you to change your aspirations, and you wanted to kill me. In this life, I won't advise you to change your aspirations, yet you still want to kill me." Su Moting, tell me yourself, are you out of your mind? I don't owe you anything. As more and more people gathered around, my other colleagues also came to help. Su Moting suddenly pushed me away with force, sprinted off, and disappeared into the heavy rain. A colleague came up to check on me and asked, "Are you okay? Can you still go to the interview later?" I swept my bangs back and said, "No problem. I've now been promoted to team leader at the company, with an annual salary increase to 600,000. The projects under my leadership continue to expand, requiring constant hiring. On my desk lies a thick stack of candidate resumes from Cambridge and Harvard to Tsinghua, Peking, and Zhejiang University. Everything from masters to PhDs is available." Yes, Su Moting looks down on academic qualifications, but he doesn't know that sometimes society can be this cruel. He smashed the computer case hard onto my head. Later, I heard from my mom that Su Moting had been arrested. It turned out that after personally killing Suyu, he obtained a fake ID and returned to his hometown to work as a food delivery rider. While delivering food, one of his orders happened to be sent to our old high school. At first, he didn't even recognize it was our alma mater. After all these years, the high school had undergone expansion and renovations, and the main gate had completely changed its appearance. He just impatiently tugged at his sticky, foul-smelling delivery rider uniform, scolding the student for being too slow to pick up the takeout. But unexpectedly, as soon as he stepped onto his motorcycle, he heard the familiar school bell ring behind him. Unchanged after all these years. In that instant, Su Moting seemed frozen in place. The sweltering June heat, pierced by the shrill cries of cicadas, the clear sound of reading voices faintly drifted from the classroom windows. He suddenly leaped off his motorcycle, staggering and brushing past several pedestrians' shoulders, his trembling hands pressing against the tall black iron gate. Slowly removing his sweat-drenched helmet, through the gaps in the iron gate, Su Moting clearly saw his own name displayed on the long honor roll in the schoolyard. Su Moting, 732 points, 2024 provincial top scorer. The photo showed his 18-year-old self, full of vigor, smiling shyly with pursed lips. The security guard in the gatehouse looked over in surprise. They saw this unfamiliar young man who seemed to recall all the sorrows in the world, weeping uncontrollably. Upon closer inspection, he realized this person not only bore some resemblance to the wanted criminal recently featured on TV, but was also the spitting image of that year's top scholar on the honor roll. It said that when the police arrived, Su Moting neither fled nor hid, merely chuckling softly to himself, laughing at his own pitiful life. Later, he was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder. But none of this concerns me anymore. The end. Story 2. After being reborn, I gave up competing with Liu Yuanchen's childhood sweetheart for a spot in the factory. He gave half of his salary to his childhood sweetheart, and I didn't stop him. While he was accompanying his childhood sweetheart in the hospital during childbirth, I had already bought a ticket to go south. Finally, he said he would agree to marry me, as long as I adopted the child of his childhood sweetheart. I turned around and boarded the train to Guangzhou. In this life, I not only want great wealth and prosperity, I also want to completely avoid the miserable fate of marrying Liu Yuanchen in my previous life. 1. Looking at the layoff notice handed to me by the workshop director, I felt a moment of dizziness. Just a second ago, I was lying alone in the hospital bed, filled with resentment and unwillingness. The disdainful look in Liu Yuanchen's eyes as he left kept replaying in my mind. The next second, I was back 25 years ago. Xiao Wen, the factory's performance isn't good, And there's nothing I can do, the director said. My eyes stung with sadness. I had actually returned to my youth. I took the thin piece of paper with trembling hands and glanced down at it. The few words on it declared that I had lost my stable job. I'm better than Ran Shumian in all assessments. Is it Lu Yuanshan's idea to lay me off? My voice betrayed no emotion. Although I already knew the answer, I still asked the question. The director looked feel difficult and let out a sigh. Xiao Wen, the list hasn't been officially announced yet. Why don't you go home and talk to Director Lu again? The image of Lu Yuanshan's face, always as cold as ice towards me, flashed in my mind. Talk to him. He wouldn't even want to listen to a single extra word from me. This was his decision after all. In his eyes, I was nothing but a village woman who didn't even graduate from high school. I only got a job in the factory thanks to the favor my father had done for his family, and he was the outstanding and promising young Director Lu. If my father hadn't saved Lu Yuanshan's father, who had fallen off a cliff many years ago, our lives would have never intersected. The person he recognized as worthy of standing beside him was his childhood sweetheart, Ran Shumian, never me. Thinking of this, I gave a calm smile. Director, I accept the layoff. My sudden acceptance stunned the director. It seemed he didn't expect me to accept the result so easily. Xiao Wen, aren't you going to fight for it? Once you leave, there's no going back. I shook my head stubbornly and said briskly, no need, the outside world is much broader. The director looked at me, not understanding, his eyes full of confusion. The factory is better than the outside. Our factory will surely pull through sooner or later. He didn't know that in 2 years, this place would undergo earth-shattering changes, and this layoff was just the beginning of the tide. I took the layoff notice and went to pack my things. Before leaving the factory, looking at the layoff list posted on the bulletin board, I smiled with relief. Too, in my previous life, I used all means to compete for this spot to stay in the factory. I didn't want to lose this job that I relied on to make a living. Even more, I didn't want to lose the only symbol of identity that could rival Ran Shumian's. This job was one of the few things that allowed me to hold my head up in front of Lu Yuanshan. Lu Yuanshan was every girl's dream lover, tall, handsome, from a good family, and with an outstanding temperament, and I managed to get engaged to him thanks to the kindness my father had shown his family. I had no reason to give him up to someone else. In my previous life, I managed to stay in the factory by squeezing out Ran Shumian, who had somehow gotten pregnant, thanks to my good work performance. However, from then on, Lu Yuanshan became even colder towards me. Even after we got married under the urging of Uncle Lu, he never spent the night at home and often stayed in the factory dormitory. We never shared a bed except for the night of our wedding when he was drunk. I could only catch a fleeting glimpse of his tall figure when the factory held general staff meetings. 5 years passed like this, and then he suddenly brought back a boy who was over 5 years old. He said the boy was an orphan of a friend since we didn't have children of our own. We adopted the boy. I treated the boy as my own and took care of him wholeheartedly. I gave him everything he wanted, all the delicious food and nice things, but his favorite person was still Lu Yuanshan. Every year, he looked forward to going to his father during the summer vacation and traveling with him. Ridiculously, it wasn't until the end of my life that I found out. Over the past 25 years, my husband, who only ever appeared on our marriage certificate, spent all his vacations with Ran Shumian in Guangzhou. It turned out that after being laid off, Ran Shumian caught up with the wave of reform and opening up. Being busy with work, she had no time to take care of the child, so she entrusted the child to Lu Yuanshan. While I was getting up early and going to bed late to take care of their child, they went to many places that I had only seen on TV. They saw the sea together, climbed Mount Tai together, and visited Lingyin Temple together, while my world was always just the factory, home, the assembly line, and the kitchen. It was only about taking care of other people's children and looking after the elderly Uncle Lu. When I saw those photo albums full of memories in Lu Yuanshan's office, I fell ill and could no longer get out of bed. I finally understood what "nothing is more sorrowful than the death of the heart" meant. I thought that even though Lu Yuanshan was cold to me, he still regarded me as his wife. When he was desperately running around for the factory's performance, I took care of everything at home for him. Surely he would remember my kindness in his heart. Even though the neighbors were all sympathizing with me, pitied me, talked about me, taunted me, they said I had a husband but lived as if I didn't. Some people even used me as a negative example to teach their daughters, saying that this was what happened when you were with a man who didn't love you. I never paid attention to these words and never regretted my choices, but at the end of my life, lying in bed, I regretted it. Lu Yuanshan and the child I raised came to visit me. Lu Yuanshan came to fulfill his last obligation as a husband, to prepare for my funeral in advance, and the child I raised asked me softly in my ear, "Mom, where did you put your jewelry and silver dollars?" I endured the pain, opened my cloudy eyes, and squeezed out a hoarse voice from my throat, "Get out, I'm not your mother." He came to see me because he wanted my inheritance. Even if I donated everything, I wouldn't leave them a single cent. As early as the day I was pronounced dead, I had donated all my inheritance, but even so, at the last moment of my life I still regretted my past decisions. Why was I so obsessed with Lu Yuanchen? He was just a man, not worth sacrificing my otherwise wonderful life. 3. Before I got home, I was stopped by my neighbor, Sister Lu. At the entrance of the alley, her round face was full of envy. "Xiaomei, you're so lucky. Director Lu carried a TV set home today. Hurry up and go home to have a look." As she spoke, Sister Lu grabbed my arm and pulled me towards the alley. She clearly also wanted to see the TV as soon as possible. I originally wanted to tell her not to follow, because I knew very well the TV would definitely not be at the home where Lu Yuanchen and I lived. When my parents passed away, the factory took back the house, and I had to wait for a new one to be allocated because I had nowhere to live. Uncle Lu suggested that I move in with Lu Yuanchen. Looking at Sister Lu's excited eyes, I changed my mind. I let her push me back home. This house had the best layout in the alley, with 2 bedrooms and a living room, spacious and bright. Lu Yuanchen often stayed at the factory and didn't come back every day. At the moment, he wasn't at home, and of course, there was no brand new TV in the living room. Sister Lu looked around and gave me a meaningful look towards the bedroom where I lived. "Xiaomei, is the TV in your room?" Before I could answer, a soft and sweet voice from next door answered. Sister Lu, "Brother Yuanchen, you're so kind. With this TV, I can learn English." For as soon as Sister Lu heard this, she widened her eyes and dragged me to push open the gate of the next door courtyard. This was the first time I saw Lu Yuanchen after being reborn. He had his back to me, quietly letting Ran Shumian wipe the sweat from his forehead. When she saw me at the door, Ran Shumian withdrew her hand, the corners of her mouth curling slightly. "Sister-in-law is back. Brother Yuanchen gave me a TV. I'll cook tonight to thank you both." Ran Shumian was very beautiful, with snow-white skin and particularly charming eyes. She was wearing a loose light yellow dacron shirt. The collar of the shirt was slightly open, revealing her prominent collarbones, which made people's minds wander. Her limbs were still slender, but her belly was slightly rounded. I didn't respond to her, but Sister Lu couldn't hold back. She pointed at the TV on the table and asked, "Wow, I thought Director Lu bought this precious TV for his fiancée." Lu Yuanchen had already turned around. His gaze towards me was completely indifferent. "What does she need a TV for? Shumian is preparing for the college entrance examination. She needs it more." Ran Shumian looked up at the man in front of her, her eyes burning with passion. Sister Lu looked at me in surprise, her eyes urging me to say something. I looked at the brand new TV and indeed didn't have much desire for it. However, I wasn't going to let Ran Shumian have it so easily either. "Don't I need to take the college entrance examination more? I also need this TV." He knew very well that I would be laid off, so I actually needed the college entrance examination more than Ran Shumian. I looked straight into Lu Yuanchen's eyes, and he guiltily averted his gaze. "Wait a little longer. I'll buy you one when I get my next month's salary. Do you have any extra TV purchase tickets?" I retorted. Lu Yuanchen opened his mouth but didn't say anything. TV purchase tickets were in short supply. Even if you had money, you couldn't buy a TV without a ticket. Finally, under Ran Shumian's unwilling gaze, with her lower lip tightly bitten, Lu Yuanchen moved the TV back home. "Shumian, leave it to me. I'll get you another one." Ran Shumian saw him to the door and said with a sullen face, "Sister-in-law isn't happy that you gave me something. Don't spend money on me in the future. If I can't get into college, it's just my bad luck." With that, she slammed the courtyard gate shut. When we got home, Lu Yuanchen's face was so gloomy that it seemed like ink could drip from it. "You had to fight for even a TV. Now are you satisfied?" I ignored him and focused on the news broadcast on TV. Business opportunities were hidden within. Seeing that I didn't respond, Lu Yuanchen stood in front of the TV, blocking the screen. "Now that you've gotten the TV, don't compete with Shumian for the spot to stay in the factory." 5. This sentence finally piqued my interest. I hadn't even confronted him about ordering my layoff, and he brought it up on his own. "Then I'd like to ask you, Director Lu, I'm better than Ran Shumian in all assessments. Why should I be the one to be laid off?" Lu Yuanchen frowned and shook his head at me. "You tell me why. Just because you're engaged to me. If you're laid off, I can support you. Shumian is a woman, and she's pregnant. What would she do if she's laid off?" How touching his words were. He could support me, but in fact, with my own abilities, I didn't need anyone to support me. I could be self-sufficient. Yet he stepped in and made me lose my job. forcing me to rely on others. I didn't want to argue with him anymore. It was completely pointless. Seeing that I didn't respond, his furrowed brows relaxed slightly. From next month on, I'll give you half of my salary, and I'll lend the other half to Shumian. She needs to get more nutrition now. I sneered inwardly but still kept a poker face. Lu Yuanshan continued, we'll just tighten our belts for a few months. It'll be better once she gives birth. I thought about it, and the words of protest that came to my lips were swallowed back down. There was no point in saying more. He said it was a loan, but how could he bear to let Ran Shumian pay it back? Moreover, after she gave birth, she would need to recuperate and raise the child. I'm afraid that half of the salary would never be paid back. However, that was his own willing choice, and it had nothing to do with me anymore. Whatever, these 3 words expressed my attitude. A rare smile appeared on Lu Yuanshan's usually cold face. I'm glad you understand. Shumian and I grew up together. I can't just stand by and watch her suffer. If you care about her so much, why don't you care about who the father of the child in her belly is? I still looked at the TV without even raising my eyelids as I asked. Lu Yuanshan seemed to have been suddenly hit where it hurt, and his voice suddenly grew louder. She was bullied. Don't ever mention this again. 6. Having lost my job, the most important thing now was to make money. When the neighbors heard that I had been laid off, they all came to comfort me. Don't worry, Director Lu can support the family on his own. Lu Yuanshan also kept his word and gave me half of his salary the next day. Then he threw himself into Ran Shumian's courtyard. But I'd rather beg for food than rely on Lu Yuanshan over the not too high courtyard wall. Ran Shumian's sweet voice drifted over from time to time. Brother Yuanshan, cut me some fruit. Brother Yuanshan, my back is a little sore. Hang up the clothes for me. Brother Yuanshan, I don't want to go to the factory tomorrow. Can you tell the workshop director for me? Lu Yuanshan never complained. The sound of his footsteps going in and out of the courtyard could be heard. I ignored it and focused on tidying up my clothes. Once I found a place to live, I would move out of here sooner or later. Seeing the 2 stacks of brand new clothes at the back of the wardrobe, a pang of sadness still welled up in my otherwise calm heart. I had bought all the fabric with my own money and made these clothes for Lu Yuanshan using a sewing machine. I made 1 piece a month, and in 2 years, I had made about 20 pieces. They lay quietly in the wardrobe, just as they had when I first gave them to Lu Yuanshan. Not a single one had been touched. What a waste. I might as well sell them on the black market. Suddenly, an idea flashed through my mind. In my previous life, not long after I married Lu Yuanshan, the Shaoqing shirt became popular all over the country. That kind of shirt with a turnover collar and a cinched waist soon became in short supply. I could make some first and sell them on the black market to preemptively occupy this market. With this thought in mind, I got to work right away and took out the tin box by my bedside. Inside were several cloth purchase tickets that I had saved for making clothes for Lu Yuanshan, as well as a savings book. The 1,000 yuan in the passbook was all the savings I had left, after spending dozens of yuan on buying fabric. I was busy for several days, working vigorously in front of the sewing machine. I didn't notice Lu Yuanshan appearing at my bedroom door at all. Isn't there any dinner at home? At this time usually, he would be having dinner with Ran Shumian next door. I was busy making clothes and just had a few bites to eat casually. I didn't prepare his meal at all. He looked at the pile of colorful fabrics in front of me with dissatisfaction. Now that you're not working, can't you even cook properly? Suddenly being questioned, I didn't stop my sewing work and retorted, go next door if you want to eat. There's none here. Hearing the bluntness in my words, he was taken aback for a moment, then changed the topic. Aren't you preparing for the college entrance examination? Why do you still have the leisure to make clothes? His tone was reproachful and disdainful. The college entrance examination was just an excuse for me not to give the TV to Ran Shumian for free. In my previous life, I also tried to take the college entrance examination, but I really wasn't cut out for studying. One should have self-awareness. I believed that with my own hands, I wouldn't starve myself. I stopped what I was doing and put a finger to my lips. Shoo, don't you hear? The person next door seems to have fallen. I hope the baby in her belly isn't hurt. Even though it was completely quiet next door, Lu Yuanshan immediately stood up. He listened intently for a moment, then turned and ran out. But after a while, he came back. I couldn't figure out why he kept coming to me today. This would have been impossible in the past. The next moment, he stammered and answered my question. My dad called today. After hearing that you were laid off, he wants me to marry you next month. I had originally planned to go and talk to Uncle Lu about calling off the engagement in person. After a while, unexpectedly, I waited for his urging to get married first. I remained silent, waiting for the conditions he would propose next. Sure enough, he turned his head away and avoided looking into my eyes as he continued, can you go and tell my dad that we'll get married next year? I really don't have the time right now. Of course he didn't have the time, he was busy with work every day and also busy taking care of the pregnant woman. He really didn't have time to get married. I nodded. I'll go and make things clear to Uncle Lu tomorrow. Hearing my answer, Lu Yuanchen seemed to heave a sigh of relief, and the gloom on his face disappeared in an instant. Having settled things with me, he immediately turned and left with brisk steps. Then, the creaking sound of the courtyard door opening and closing came from next door. In the room alone, under the dim light, I sneered. I would go to see Uncle Lu, however, not to postpone the marriage but to completely get rid of you. Lu Yuanchen 7. The next day, I got up before dawn. You had to go early to the black market. It would be too late if you went later. After simply cooking myself a bowl of millet porridge, I carried my bundle on my back. Inside were the more than 20 men's clothes that Lu Yuanchen had never worn, as well as the 10 women's clothes I had just made. Before going out, I also put the jade bracelet that the Lu family gave me during the engagement into the bundle. As soon as I opened the door and walked out, I unexpectedly ran into Lu Yuanchen, who had just returned home unprecedentedly. He was holding a bamboo steamer, buns and a bowl of millet porridge in his hands. When he saw me carrying a bundle and about to go out, he froze in place. It's so early, where are you going? I also didn't know what he was doing at home so early. He usually didn't have breakfast with me at home. He always went to eat at Ran Shumian's place, so I just replied indifferently, I have something to do, and continued walking out. Behind me came the clear sound of the porcelain bowl being placed on the table, and then Lu Yuanchen grabbed my wrist. What could you possibly have to do so early? Sit down and have breakfast first. Shumian made it early in the morning. I withdrew my hand, which he was gripping tightly, and stubbornly didn't sit down. Seeing that I was still standing, Lu Yuanchen sighed. I thought about it last night. I'm not relieved leaving you to see my dad alone. Let's go together after breakfast. Subconsciously, I retorted, what are you not relieved about? Afraid that I'll change my mind at the last minute. Lu Yuanchen's pupils trembled, and he avoided my gaze as he said softly, no, I'm worried that you won't be able to find him. I'll take you there. In the past 2 years, I had delivered meals to Uncle Lu countless times. He knew this very well, yet at this moment, he was worried that I wouldn't be able to find the place. Obviously, Ran Shumian had said something to him last night, making him worried that I would change my mind, which was why he wanted to go with me. Seeing that the sky was getting lighter and lighter, I became anxious. Now, I didn't have the time to tangle with him here, so I said expressionlessly, no need, I'll go by myself. If you're not relieved about me, you can ask your dad yourself after I come back. With that, I strode out of the house without looking back. The person behind me was still shouting, aren't you going to have breakfast either? I ignored him. I wasn't a stray dog on the street. I wouldn't fawn over him just because he threw a bone when he was in a good mood. On the way to the black market, I carefully avoided the early risers and groped my way to the black market trading site. It was a hidden alley that few people came to on ordinary days, but at this moment, there were already several people leaning against the wall, sizing up everyone who stepped into the alley with shrewd eyes. I nervously hugged the bundle in front of my chest. However, an hour later, when the sky began to turn fish belly white, all my nervousness turned into joy. The clothes I brought were sold out quickly. The men's clothes I made for Lu Yuanchen were intended to be sold at a low price, so they were snapped up immediately, and although the beautiful women's clothes were a bit more expensive, they were still very popular. In the end, I earned a total of 150 yuan, which was almost as much as I had saved in half a year. The excitement made me forget the trouble of having to face Uncle Lu soon. It wasn't until I stood in front of his office that my mind started working overtime to organize my words. Uncle Lu was a man who valued friendship and loyalty. He personally arranged this engagement, hoping that Lu Yuanchen and I would be happy. He treated me like his own daughter. Unfortunately, in this life, I didn't want to be his daughter-in-law anymore. 8. I knocked on the office door, and a steady and imposing voice came from inside. Come in. I pushed the door open and walked in slowly. When Uncle Lu looked up and saw it was me, a smile spread across his wrinkled face. This was the warmest smile I had seen since my parents passed away. But when I explained my intention of calling off the engagement, the smile disappeared and was replaced by extreme anger. Every wrinkle on his serious face was trembling. This unfilial son, did he send you? He got you laid off and now wants to break off the engagement. Xiaomei, don't worry. I'll make him kneel and apologize to you and marry you immediately. I smiled faintly and shook my head. Uncle Lu, I don't want to marry him. Uncle Lu was stunned. He couldn't have imagined that I didn't want to marry Lu Yuanchen. It was clear that in his heart, he also thought that I was punching above my weight by marrying Lu Yuanchen. Xiaomei, are you serious? I smiled calmly. I don't want to live here anymore. I want to go and see the South. If I get married, I won't be free. Uncle Lou, you won't force me to stay, will you? Uncle Lou looked at me in silence, a hint of doubt in his eyes, but after a moment, he nodded slowly. As if in understanding, I knew very well that if I said it was because of Lou Yuanshan that I wanted to call off the engagement, Uncle Lou would make us get married even if he had to break his son's legs, but if I said it was my own wish not to marry, then he would respect my decision. Seeing Uncle Lou nod, I quickly took out the jade bracelet from the bundle and handed it to him solemnly. Uncle Lou, I'm returning this bracelet to you. I also have another favor to ask. Can I stay in that house for a while? I'll move out soon. Also, I want to tell him about the broken engagement in person. There was nothing but regret and guilt in Uncle Lou's eyes, and he readily agreed. All right, don't worry about the house. From now on, it's your home. I smiled faintly and kept silent. How could a place with Lu Yuanshan in it be a home? 9. After a busy day, I got home a little after 8 o'clock. The house was pitch black. While the lights next door were bright, I pushed open the door to my room, put down the bundle, and just turned on the light when the courtyard door creaked open. You're back. Did you see my dad today? I didn't turn around and continued calculating accounts on the notebook with a pen and paper. When I had just parted ways with Uncle Lou, he stuffed 500 yuan and a piece of paper into my hand. The paper had a name and an address written on it. He said it was an old friend of his who was now in Guangzhou. I could contact him when I got there now, including all my savings. As long as I made some more money through the black market, I could go to Guangzhou. An indescribable excitement welled up in my heart, and the corners of my mouth involuntarily turned up. I didn't notice at all that Lu Yuanshan had already sat down next to me and had been looking at me. When I looked up, I met his somewhat dazed expression. When he saw me looking up, he immediately averted his gaze and furrowed his brows slightly. Didn't you hear what I said? Did you see my dad today? I said everything that needed to be said. Your dad agreed, I said indifferently. Lu Yuanshan's expression relaxed a lot, and he nodded. I'm sorry to have wronged you this time. I'll definitely make it up to you after Shumian gives birth. As soon as he finished speaking, as if on cue, Ran Shumian came in, supporting her waist. When she saw Lu Yuanshan sitting close to me, she immediately pouted. Brother Yuanshan, why haven't you come back yet? The word back was really funny. This was originally Lu Yuanshan's home, but he couldn't stay here for long. Why did you get up? Be careful. Lu Yuanshan stood up to help her. After settling her firmly on the wooden chair padded with a quilt, he sat back on the chair next to me. After sitting down, Ran Shumian looked around the room. When she saw the fabric next to the sewing machine, her eyes lit up. Sister-in-law, this fabric is so beautiful. Are you making clothes? Lu Yuanshan also chimed in. I was going to ask you the same thing. What are you doing buying so much fabric? It's a waste. I didn't say a word and just silently covered the colorful fabrics with a white cloth, but Ran Shumian still stared at the fabrics. Brother Yuanshan, now that my belly is big, I don't have any suitable clothes to wear. Since sister-in-law is so skillful, can she make me a couple of pieces? No problem. She made quite a few for me. She can make you a couple of pieces too. Lu Yuanshan agreed readily, then turned back and pressured me with his eyes. There's a lot of fabric, and you're free now. Just make a few pieces for Shumian on the side. I closed my eyes, feeling extremely annoyed. I had originally wanted to ignore them, but they insisted on provoking me. I didn't pretend anymore and pointed to the door with a cold face. Take your childhood sweetheart and get out. 10. Lu Yuanshan was stunned. I had never spoken to him in such a tone before. He sat there staring at me blankly, his face turning red. His eyes remained fixed on me, as if trying to figure out if there was a ghost possessing me. Finally, Ran Shumian broke the silence. She said pitifully, sister-in-law doesn't welcome me. I'll go back. With that, she stood up with her pregnant belly and slowly walked towards the door. Lu Yuanshan still looked at me in disbelief, as if he hadn't heard Ran Shumian's words at all. When Ran Shumian reached the door, she looked back and called softly, Brother Yuanshan. Only then did Lu Yuanshan look at her and casually said, You go back. Ran Shumian's eyes immediately welled up with tears. She bit her lip, hesitated for a moment, and then left. For a moment, only Lu Yuanshan and I were left in the room. The air seemed to thin out in an instant, making it hard to breathe. Finally, Lu Yuanshan couldn't stand it anymore and sighed. You're also a woman. Why do you have to target Shumian? Her parents cut off relations with her because she got pregnant before marriage. She has no one to rely on. After all, you've been neighbors for 2 years. Isn't it only right that you help each other? I sneered. So, I owe her and should make clothes for her. Lu Yuanshan was at a loss for words. He clenched his fist on the table, and his tone became serious. When may, be more reasonable. I smiled and asked him. My fiancé almost lives at her place. Isn't that reasonable enough? Lu Yuanchen stood up abruptly, his voice several degrees louder. Our relationship is as pure as that of childhood sweethearts. What do you know? I sneered. I didn't know and didn't want to know whether their relationship was really that of innocent childhood sweethearts or if they were using that as a cover for something else. I didn't care at all. The more one tries to hide something, the more one reveals it. 11 That night ended unhappily. Lu Yuanchen slammed the door and left. After it quieted down, I finally had time to continue making clothes. The sewing machine clicked away, and my heart gradually calmed down. The next morning, I got up early again, ready to go to the black market to sell clothes. As soon as I opened the door to my room, I heard the sound of deep breathing coming from Lu Yuanchen's room. I wondered to myself that although he was so angry last night, he still came back to stay, but it had nothing to do with me, so I went out directly. For the next whole month, I left early in the morning and returned at noon, then spent the afternoons and evenings making clothes in my room. The days passed peacefully and busily. The only unusual thing was that Lu Yuanchen came home more frequently. Sometimes, when he suddenly came back in the evening and saw the empty kitchen, he would even open the door to my room and ask, "Is there no dinner?" And my answer was always to shake my head and tell him to go next door to eat. Every time, it was hard to tell what he was feeling. He would just silently close the door to my room. Several times I thought he had gone next door to be with Ran Shumian, but when I opened the door, he was sitting in the living room, reading a book by the dim light. But I never paid attention to him and just treated him like air. After getting water, I would go back to my room. Ran Shumian made a lot of noise next door several times. Sometimes a bowl would break, and sometimes a flower pot would fall. After Lu Yuanchen rushed over to check, he would come back soon. This made me, who was drying my hair in the living room in my pajamas at the time, extremely embarrassed. I could only return to my room with a cold face. This peace lasted until one noon in autumn. I had gotten up too early in the morning and was taking a nap in my room. The door of the house was pushed open violently and slammed against the wall with a heavy thud. I was jolted awake from my dream. Lu Yuanchen stormed up to the bedside, grabbed my collar, and yanked me out of bed. "I've been nice to you for a few days, and you're pushing your luck. How dare you hit Shumian's belly?" My mind went blank for a moment, and everything went dark before my eyes. All I could hear was Lu Yuanchen's roar. When the darkness in front of my eyes cleared, I shook off Lu Yuanchen and screamed, "I haven't even seen Ran Shumian today. Where would I have gone to hit her belly?" Lu Yuanchen looked at me with disappointment, his voice harsh, still trying to deny it. "And one next door saw it. You threw a sandbag from our yard into Shumian's yard." My mind went blank, and then I remembered when I came back from the black market today, I saw a cloth sandbag in the yard. After I picked it up, Ran Shumian's voice happened to float over the courtyard wall. She said she accidentally dropped the sandbag into our yard and asked me to throw it back to her. Without thinking much, I casually tossed the sandbag over the wall and then went back to my room to sleep. When the sandbag was thrown over, I clearly heard the sound of it hitting the ground. There's no way it could have hit Ran Shumian. Gritting my teeth, I enunciated each word sharply. "I didn't do it, and I'll never admit to something I didn't do." With that, I jumped out of bed, rushed out of the courtyard gate, and into Ran Shumian's house. Lu Yuanchen was startled by my sudden move and shouted at me to stop from behind. I went straight to Ran Shumian's bedside. She was lying on the bed, clutching her belly. When she saw me come in, she exclaimed in horror, "Don't hurt my baby. Please don't." I stepped forward quickly and slapped her across the face. "Don't worry, I won't hurt your baby. I'm just slapping your face." I slapped Ran Shumian twice before Lu Yuanchen rushed in and pulled me away. "Wen Mei, are you crazy? How dare you hit Shumian?" I used all my strength to shake off Lu Yuanchen and sneered at his enraged expression. "If I bully her, I do it openly. Open your eyes and see clearly. These 2 slaps are from me." Lu Yuanchen had never seen me like this before and was stunned in place. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. In front of him, I had always been restrained, trying my best to show my best side. In fact, I'm naturally hot-tempered and can't stand being wronged, but in my previous life, I endured so much grievance because of him. In this life, I won't chagrin myself anymore. Ran Shumian was already crying uncontrollably, and red, swollen slap marks were gradually appearing on both sides of her face. Lu Yuanchen quickly hugged her and patted her back to comfort her. "Stop crying, don't get too worked up and harm the baby." Then he turned to me and shouted, "Apologize to Shumian." I scoffed, "Apologize my ass. She wouldn't have gotten these 2 slaps if she hadn't been so provocative." 13 After this incident, Lu Yuanchen directly moved his bedding to Ran Shumian's house. He stopped talking to me completely, as if punishing me in this way. Unfortunately for him, I was only too happy to be free without him around, but Ran Shumian came to flaunt herself in front of me again. She was almost due to give birth, standing at the door with her big belly sticking out, eating an apple. It was as if she was holding that plate of peeled and sliced apples, specifically waiting for me. Brother Yuanshan peeled these for me. These 2 slaps were totally worth it. As she spoke, she picked up a piece of apple, popped it into her mouth, and said with satisfaction, he also said that when the baby is born, he'll be the baby's father. When May, both his person and his heart are with me now, what can you do to compete with me? After saying that, she looked at me with a smug smile, showing no sign of weakness at all. Only at this moment did I truly realize from the bottom of my heart that in both my past life and this life, it wasn't that I wasn't good enough for Lu Yuanshan. Rather, a man like Lu Yuanshan, who has no sense of boundaries, deserves a woman as low class as Ran Shumian. Thinking of this, I blurted it out. I'm not competing. Congratulations, you've got yourself a 2-legged man. As for me, I would embrace a much broader world. In the past, when facing Ran Shumian and Lu Yuanshan, I would unconsciously feel inferior. They came from good families and had a higher educational level than me, so, when facing Lu Yuanshan, I always involuntarily myself, and when facing Ran Shumian, I always wanted to prove myself, feeling both inferior and arrogant. It was originally a messy game between the 2 of them, but I insisted on getting involved and lost myself in the process. In fact, there are far more meaningful things to do in life away from them if all else fails. Making money can be the guiding principle of my life. After all, if there's no meaning, at least there's money. After I finished speaking, Ran Shumian looked confused. She widened her eyes and asked, "What do you mean?" I just smiled and didn't answer, then turned around and walked into the courtyard. 14. I bought a train ticket to Guangzhou, and it would depart in 2 days. Looking at that small ticket, I felt a surge of anticipation for the future. I packed my luggage, sold or gave away the things I didn't need in the end, except for the furniture. There was no sign that anyone had ever lived in the room. Before leaving, I went to the black market one last time. Originally planning to say goodbye to the few vendors I did business with, unexpectedly, the Industrial and Commercial Bureau was cracking down on speculative activities, and I was detained. There was only 1 day left before the train to Guangzhou departed, and I was in a panic. Finally, after pleading with the staff for a long time, he agreed to let me make a phone call. The phone in Lu Yuanshan's office was answered, but it wasn't him, its sister-in-law. Director Lu received an urgent call this afternoon and rushed to the hospital immediately. Which hospital? I asked anxiously. The second hospital. The second hospital was the best hospital in our area, especially for obstetrics. There was no need for further explanation. I smiled, hung up the phone, feeling ashamed of myself for even thinking of asking him for help. As time passed, one by one, the small vendors who had been brought to the Industrial and Commercial Bureau with me in the morning were picked up by their families. I was the only one left. I could only tell myself, it's okay, if I miss this train, there will be another one. It's just a few days delay. It's okay. Just when I was on the verge of despair, a familiar voice sounded behind me, steady and solemn. Xiaomei, what are you doing here? 15. I was lucky. Uncle Lu happened to be out on business. He bailed me out and took me home. As soon as we reached the yard, the dark windows of the house showed that no one was home. Uncle Lu's face immediately darkened. He sat at home for a long time, drinking 2 pots of tea, but Lu Yuanshan still didn't come back. This unfilial son, it's so late, and he still isn't home. Uncle Lu, I'm afraid he won't be coming back tonight, I said calmly. Uncle Lu glanced at me, got up, and went outside to look at the windows next door. They were also dark. His face grew even darker. Is he with that girl who got pregnant out of wedlock? I remained silent, not wanting to answer. Who Lu Yuanshan was with had nothing to do with me anymore. In 10 hours, I would be boarding the train to Guangzhou. Finally, unable to wait for Lu Yuanshan to return, Uncle Lu said he still had work at the unit and left in a huff. After a day of fear and anxiety, I was completely exhausted. I fell into a deep sleep as soon as I lay down in bed. 16. When I woke up in the morning, the sound of footsteps in the living room made me think there was a burglar. I peeked through the keyhole for a long time before I recognized that it was Lu Yuanshan who had come back. He had a stubble of beard on his face, and his chin was covered in a faint blue-black. When he saw me, he said casually, Shumian gave birth last night. It's a boy. Thinking of the boy who only cared about my property on my deathbed in my previous life, I showed a look of disgust. Lu Yuanshan caught that look, and he immediately became unhappy. What's that look for? Even if you don't like Shumian, the child is innocent. Why do you have so much hostility towards the child? I sneered slightly. How could he know that in my previous life, he hurt me the most, and this child was the second? I took care of him with all my heart as he grew up, but he always helped his biological mother deceive me when I was suffering in bed. All he cared about was my property. Seeing that I remained silent, Lu Yuanchen stopped asking and softened his tone. I came back to discuss something with you. After all, Shumian isn't married. How will she get married in the future with a child? After we get married, let's adopt this child. I never expected that just a few hours before I left, I would hear such outrageous words from him. I was so speechless that I opened my mouth but couldn't say a word. Seeing that I didn't respond, Lu Yuanchen added, as long as you agree, we can get married immediately. I looked into his eyes, which were filled with confidence. It was ridiculous. In his eyes, I would readily accept such an absurd thing just to marry him sooner, as if the goal of my life was simply to marry him. I curled the corners of my mouth slightly and gave him a vague answer. Let's talk about it later. Ran Shumian needs you right now. Go to the hospital. Lu Yuanchen's eyes lit up, and a smile appeared on his previously stern face. When May, you're finally being reasonable. 17. As soon as Lu Yuanchen left, I grabbed my luggage and headed straight for the train station. The moment the train started moving, I felt an unprecedented sense of relief and freedom. After a 2-day train journey, I finally arrived in Guangzhou, this hot land. At first, I was unfamiliar with the place, but thanks to the note Uncle Lu gave me, I was able to contact his old friend. That uncle gave me a lot of help, and I gradually got used to life in Guangzhou. When I was working in the factory, I was always on the lookout for business opportunities. At that time, fashionable and high-end women's clothing from abroad was being introduced to the mainland via Hong Kong. Taking advantage of the geographical location, I came into contact with a lot of beautiful women's clothing and earned my first pot of gold. After that, things got easier. I soon became wealthy, set up my own factory, and bought my own house. In the 3rd year after I came to Guangzhou, I wrote a letter to Uncle Lu and enclosed 2,000 yuan to thank him for his help at that time. Just a week later, I received a reply. However, the letter was signed by Lu Yuanchen. Xiaomei, I'm glad to know that you're doing well in Guangzhou. I've submitted a leave application and am expected to arrive in Guangzhou next month. I'll come to take you home. The rest of the letter was full of trivial nonsense in both my past and present lives. I never knew that Lu Yuanchen could say such cheesy love words. He said he missed me terribly, day and night, and that my image filled his mind. He said he had made a huge mistake, lost his true love, and now deeply regretted it. He also said he had already cut off all ties with Ran Shumian and was just waiting to take me home. Finally, he said that his only wish now was to find me, marry me, and have children with me. I casually tore up the letter and threw it into the trash. It was all nonsense. Only a fool would believe it. 18. Lu Yuanchen didn't cut off ties with Ran Shumian because he truly wanted to. It was because the biological father of Ran Shumian's child came looking for them. That man was a hooligan. He damaged his genitals in a fight and could no longer have children. That's why he came to Ran Shumian for the child. And it was revealed that she wasn't forced into pregnancy at all. Instead, Ran Shumian had initiated flirting with him, had premarital sex, and then been abandoned. The Ran family cut off relations with her because they were ashamed of her, but Lu Yuanchen foolishly believed that she was an innocent girl. But now, the innocent image of Ran Shumian in Lu Yuanchen's heart had completely shattered. He no longer believed in her. However, Ran Shumian wasn't going to give up easily. She went to see Lu Yuanchen every day, even causing a scene in the factory, creating chaos everywhere due to his conduct issues. Lu Yuanchen was removed from his position as director and became an ordinary worker. Ran Shumian spread rumors in the streets and alleys that she and Lu Yuanchen had a sexual relationship, forcing him to marry her. Lu Yuanchen tried his best to clarify, saying he had never touched her. At this time, the neighbors all came forward to speak up. Aunt Wang next door said she often saw Lu Yuanchen staying overnight at Ran Shumian's house. Sister Lu at the entrance of the alley said she had seen Lu Yuanchen buying a TV for Ran Shumian with her own eyes, so there was no way there was nothing going on between them. Even the doctors at the second hospital said that when Ran Shumian gave birth, Lu Yuanchen had been by her side, taking care of her, and they were definitely a couple. I learned all this from letters written by the vendors I used to do business with at the black market. Lu Yuanchen still hadn't sorted out this mess. Yet he had the nerve to say in his letter that he had cut off ties. It was ridiculous. 19. However, it seemed that Lu Yuanchen was really planning to come and see me. His letters arrived at a rate of one every 2 days, reporting every trivial detail of his life. I opened the first few letters out of curiosity, but later, I didn't even bother to open them. They were piled up in the corner of my office, gathering dust. 2 days before the date he had announced for his arrival in Guangzhou. The letters suddenly stopped. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from Uncle Lu. He wrote in the letter that Lu Yuanshan was dead. He died the night before he was supposed to come to Guangzhou to find me. Lu Yuanshan was killed by Ran Shumian. Despite all the obstacles, Lu Yuanshan was determined to come to Guangzhou to find me since Ran Shumian couldn't keep him by her side. In a fit of desperation, she took his life. 18 stabs, each one carrying the deep resentment and unwillingness of this woman. Finally, before the break of dawn, the blood from the wound on her own wrist also drained out. 10 years later, my business spread across the country. After all, I have finally blossomed in this vast world. Lu Yuanshan's side story. I took care of Shumian in the hospital for 3 days, and then I accompanied her home. After settling her down at her home, I was going to go back and see Wen Mei. I wanted to talk to her again about adopting the child. Shumian was weak after giving birth and didn't want me to leave, but when she heard that I was going to discuss the child's matter, she nodded and let me go. Looking at her haggard and pale face, my heart tightened. It's really not easy for a woman to give birth. She has been through a life and death situation. I wonder if Wen Mei will become weak when she gives birth in the future. I shook my head and dismissed this thought. Wen Mei is so tough that giving birth won't change her in the slightest. When I got home, the tables and chairs in the living room were neatly arranged, and the tabletop was as clean as if it had just been wiped. It seems that since Wen Mei moved into this house, everything at home has been in good order. My bedding always smelled of the sun. After smelling the disinfectant in the hospital for 3 days, I kind of missed the smell of the sun now. The door of Wen Mei's room was tightly closed. I walked over and knocked on the door. Only silence greeted me. I turned the doorknob and opened the door. The scene that greeted my eyes made me freeze in place. No, something was wrong. Except for the bed and the table, all the items that should have filled the room with the breath of life had disappeared. I strode towards the wardrobe and opened it anxiously. It was empty, with nothing inside. She was gone. She left without saying a word. But where could she have gone? I didn't know. I just suddenly felt that it was a bit difficult to breathe, and I couldn't catch my breath. I needed fresh air. I ran all the way to Sister Lu's house at the entrance of the alley and asked anxiously, "Sister Lu, have you seen Xiaomei? All the things in her room are gone." Sister Lu was picking vegetables and said slowly, "She's gone, left a long time ago." "Where did she go?" I didn't even realize that my voice was trembling. "You're asking where she went now that she's already gone. What were you doing before?" "I don't know," Sister Lu said irritably and got up to close the door. From that day on, I searched many places and asked many people, but no one knew where she had gone. Finally, I had to tell my father about Wen Mei's disappearance. My father made me kneel on the ground and gave me a good beating. That's when I found out that Wen Mei had broken off the engagement with me when she went to see my dad that day. I thought she was looking forward to marrying me, but it turned out that she had planned to break off the engagement with me long ago. I suddenly felt a faint anger at that moment. I told myself that if she was gone, then so be it. It would be best if she never came back, but I couldn't fall asleep at night. I could only get myself drunk as soon as I got off work. Now I go home every day, but I can no longer see that little woman who was earnestly making clothes in front of the sewing machine. The smell of the sun on the bedding, as time passed, also turned into a musty smell. Shumian still pestered me, but I always lost my focus when I was with her. She was very unhappy and said that it was a good thing that Wen Mei was gone, so that no one would force me to marry her. However, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't be happy at all. Perhaps, deep down, I had already regarded her as my wife. I had been waiting all along to marry her. Things happened very suddenly. When Shumian's child was 2 years old, that wretched-looking man came to the door. That's when I realized that the childhood sweetheart I had been trying so hard to protect had always been a woman with a promiscuous nature. She had lied to me. I never wanted to see Ran Shumian again. Wen Mei left because of her existence, but I had driven Wen Mei away because of such a two-faced person. I really regretted it. When I received news about Wen Mei from my father, I was being criticized for my conduct issues. Seeing that she had lost my trust, Ran Shumian started to show her true colors and act shamelessly. I was physically and mentally exhausted from her torment and also lost my position as the factory director. I was living like a walking dead every day. But the address of Wen Mei's letter still made me overjoyed. I wrote her many letters, telling her that I would go to find her, but she never responded to me. "Xiao Wen, the list hasn't been officially announced yet. Why don't you go home and talk to Director Lu again?" After the leave application was approved, I quickly booked a train ticket. The night before departure, Ran Shumian hugged my legs and begged me not to leave. The disgust in my heart was on the verge of erupting, and I just buried myself in packing my luggage. "You can't stop me. I'm going to find Wen Mei." Ran Shumian was no longer the gentle and beautiful woman she used to be. She shouted at me hysterically, "What about me? You said you would marry me. Everyone knows we slept together, you have to marry me. I couldn't stand listening to these words anymore. I pushed her away and rushed into Wenmei's bedroom.